Ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another episode of The Keel Show here live on 12 Ounce Sports, watching us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Zingo TV, channel 761. Sign up for free today using promo code 12 Ounce Sports. Get involved in the show today, hashtag TKS at The Keel Show. I almost forgot my favorite part of the intro. I'm your host, Keel. Alongside me, the inside of the insiders, Tyler Keel.
Hello, everybody. I'm here.
Yeah, you're here. If you have any questions, make sure to hit us up in the chat or in the comments during today's episode or anytime during the week, and we will do our very best to answer them. Today's show on 12 Ounce Sports is brought to you by mybookie.ag. Bet on all sports, win, and get paid using the promo code 12 Ounce Sports. Sports are ramping up, Tyler. We got the NHL hockey season in full swing. And that is promo code 12 Ounce Sports to join for free.
Sports are ramping up, Tyler.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our good friends over at Second String Leather Company. Light the Lamp candles are in fact free stock. And today's episode is also brought to you by our good friends over at SecondStringLeather.com. Second String Leather Company. Hashtag drafted from the crease.
Yes.
If you don't want to invest in our beautiful and wonderful and phenomenal sponsors and partners, make sure to check out our own merchandise at teespring.com/the Keel Show. That's space where sponsors and partners on the Keel Show. Make sure we start off the show today at teespring.com with a bang.
A bang?
Not energy drinks. No. Just a regular old bang. As we are joined by one of the hosts of the starting lineup, which you can find on Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver, Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 a.m. or 9 a.m. to noon for, us Eastern listeners.
Us out in the East, yeah.
You may also know him as the voice of EA Sports NHL. Ladies and gentlemen, it is James Cybulski on the show.
Hey, James. Woo. How you doing, James?
Oh, look at that, man. It sounds like I got my own posse. I love it. What's up, boys?
Well, we like to make, it's our guests, and, you're willing to take time out of your day. So we got to make sure you feel welcome and excited because our show it's a show.
It is a show.
It's a show.
I do the same thing whenever I talk to my boss. I do the same thing. Just suck up and just make him feel like $1 million. So you want to start off on the right foot. So I appreciate it, man. I appreciate a little suck up. My kids never stuck up to me, so why not? I'll take the love when I can get it.
Well, we appreciate you being on the show with us.
James, first of all, we've had people all across North America on our show. People, from down here in the States, out in California, Texas, New York, up in Ontario, Alberta, and now we have you. And of course, we had Ken Wiebe last week from Winnipeg. Now we have you in British Columbia. Let's get an update. How is it going out west with everything? Because you're still working in your home doing the shows, right? Because you're not back in the studio there at 650, right?
You're right. You're absolutely right. It's funny. I couldn't help but chuckle as well. I shouldn't chuckle. It sounds kind of morbid to say that, but you pretty much rattled off every major hotspot in North America before you kind of got to us. But California, Texas, New York. You forgot Florida, I guess. But we're. You know what? I will say this. I think we are still trying to be mindful. Our company, Rogers, our parent company for Sportsnet, and I'll also say the same thing with Electronic Arts, the parent company for EA Sports NHL. They've been really good about trying to give everybody the opportunity to stay safe, stay at home, and I've been pretty much working from home now for over 10 months. Mm-hmm. That pretty much mid-March. It's funny. We go back to mid-March. I hosted an event in the middle of March last year for the JCC at the sports dinner they do every year, and Drew Brees was the keynote speaker that night. Ooh. And I host kind of a fireside chat with kind of the celebrity that rolls into town every year, and the walls were essentially closing in as for everybody around the world going, man, this is kind of crazy. And we were at the point where that particular night, and here we are in a packed room with 1,000 people for this sold-out dinner. And Drew Brees, think about that in a banquet hall right now, right? 1,000 people in a room together, and which is kind of crazy. But there was at every dinner plate setting, there was a little bottle of hand sanitizer, which was so hard to get at that point, right? It was just, this is getting crazy, and this is probably going to be the last night. And, literally as the event's about to start, we're all taking our seats, and somebody walks by and says, holy cow, Trump just shut down international travel in the U.S. And it's like, wow, geez. That is serious. And so I take another 5 steps, and a colleague of mine gets up and comes over to me and says, the NBA just shut down. Rudy Gobert just tested positive, and you're going, oh my God, the NBA just halted play in the middle of the evening of scheduled play, and they just stopped. Like, wow.
During the Mavericks game, that was the famous one.
Yeah, and that was one that really kind of made, and I feel like sports had such a major impact in terms of finally making everybody take this way more serious than they probably were at the time. So it's like Trump has shut down international travel. 5 seconds later, somebody says the NBA just shut down. And then 5 seconds after I go, holy crap, this is getting serious. I turn around and somebody else comes over and says, Tom Hanks has coronavirus. And oh my God, Forrest Gump's going to die. And at the time, you're like, this is crazy. And so it was that night where it was all going down, and spending an hour on stage with Drew Brees and kind of seeing how things kind of worked for him last weekend. And that was kind of the last night to see anybody in some form of public setting after that particular night. We've just been working from home, where I've worked on my COVID beard and, probably justified way too many chocolates and glasses of wine and bags of chips, just blaming everything on COVID. So, that's been kind of life, but I think we're getting things under control to a degree. Restrictions are still in place, that there's no social gatherings right now. It's basically stick to your family household. Our kids are signed up. They all play rec soccer, and there's no games right now. You can't even have scrimmages for where we are. So everything's just basically skill drills. You got to be 3 meters apart. And, but I don't think we're under quite the lockdowns and restrictions to where you see in other parts of the country. I was talking to my sister who's in Ottawa, and, basically in Ontario, no ski hills aren't open. There's a lot of stuff is basically shut down and closed, where, I think we still have, the businesses, the economy, schools are still up and running. And, I think there's still about close to a sense of normalcy in a COVID world right now in North America that you can pretty much get. But, it's touch and go here, but, I think we're starting to tighten it a little bit up after, things kind of got out of control after Halloween. So, but nobody wants to talk about COVID right now, do they?
No, absolutely not. Oh, well, I mean, like for us around here, I was just, I had to drop some equipment off at the local hockey rink just over here because I worked for the local university for their hockey program. And while I was there,
make it seem like you're the only person that works for that team.
Right, basically. But even while I was there,
and it's volunteer.
Exactly.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm volunteer. No. But even then, one of the local high school teams around here, they basically had a not practice where there was no coaches around or anything, and they were basically just scrimmaging each other, just so that they're able to still play and whatnot once a potential season can come around. Just because players that they always want to be on the ice, whenever they can, and when if the school can pay for it and they have the ice time already, you might as well try to use it. But obviously, you want to try to stay within the guidelines and play by the rules, if you will. But getting back into professional hockey, NHL season is in full swing. We have all the teams playing in their empty-ish arenas with the tarps with the beautiful advertisements on the helmets. What is your initial reaction to the opening weekend of the NHL and how the on-ice play has looked?
It's been fun. It's been nice to just have hockey back. I don't think it's tough to kind of gauge. I'll say this: here in Vancouver, watching the first 3 games of the season, and I think half the marketplace is probably, it's 3 games, but you're going to nitpick with a passionate fan base, and so they kind of look at, all right, well, where's Pettersson? He hasn't dominated a game yet, right? I think if you look at in Edmonton, the Oilers are 1-2, and it's like, okay, well, McDavid had one night, and what about the other two nights? How are they going to go? And the Senators have played all of 2 games, and it's like they won one, and it's like, hey, you know what? This team's a lot better than a lot of people think. Well, look out. And and so just trying to get a handle on where things are at. But I think what we're learning is there's going to be games that are going to be postponed. Is it the prettiest hockey right now? No. Is it the sexiest? Probably not. It's a little raw. I think it's a little scrambly at times. But you know what? Sometimes a little less structured lends for a little more skill and just a little more open, free flow. Structures teams play so well within their systems, right? You look at 5-on-5, even strength goals are so hard to come by. You're waiting for your power play to strike. One little mistake winds up in the back of your net. And that's where I think in these early days, as chemistry still develops with some teams that made a lot of turnover and change in the offseason, I think where you've got this right now, we're seeing a little bit of unfettered play, which allows for a little more improvisation. And, sometimes it's not always pretty. And when your team's on the wrong end of it, it sucks. But I'll say this, I've kind of liked a little bit of the, what's going on here? And you know what? It's okay, because when it goes up and down, something a little more, I don't want to say it's shinny hockey because it's way more structured than that, but it just lends for a little more opportunity. And as somebody who likes goals, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and the one thing that I've kind of been hearing going around the horn is the idea about the teams that didn't play in last year's playoff hub having to try to manufacture, if you will, this hype around the game and get the adrenaline going. Obviously buildings have their own pumped in sound, try to get that fan atmosphere going, but what I've been hearing is that there have been, teams, and obviously you see situations where, Wayne Simmons trying to make an impact for the Leafs is trying to get a fight right off in his first game against Shabbat. Just last night or the night before with Columbus versus Detroit.
Oh no, that was afternoon.
Or yeah.
Tyler Bertuzzi trying to fight half the Blue Jackets.
Yeah, absolutely. So you see a lot of these teams trying to get stuff going for them. So have you seen that on your end? Have you seen teams trying to quote unquote build electricity in the building?
Oh, I think at this point in time, I think every team is trying to create their own sort of a vibe that will try to appeal to the players, whether it's a playlist that might appeal to them between whistles. Look, I think the one reality is that everybody's wired different, right? And you look at players and the human psyche, the mental game that comes into play. There are guys that are bright light players, guys who play, the bigger the moment, the more the pressure, these guys just eat it up. They just can't get enough of those bright lights, big city type moments. Where you've got other players that they might be the best player to practice against, but when you get into a game, it's just, where's that guy? He just kind of clams up. Or, how many times have people, been knocked for not performing in the playoffs when it matters, right? There's been a ton of those guys over the years who, can't win the big game, right? They can't deliver when it matters most. And what I think we see this year is for those guys that struggle mentally in those big games, this is probably the best time for them because they don't have the 20,000 fans that are on them, right? If you're a goalie having a tough night right now, you don't have to worry about hearing Cybulski, Cybulski. You don't hear that, right? You don't have to worry about getting chirped outside of maybe the guys on the bench on the other team. But for the most part, that isn't out there. Now, for guys who use that as an energy boost, who kind of thrive on a hot crowd, that's something that's probably the big adjustment for those guys who have a real hard time to say, man, I don't have, who just thrive on that adrenaline, the rush of the crowd, that want that sort of hostility and energy and excitement. And I think those guys are probably the ones that struggle way more this year. So teams I don't blame teams for trying to get creative to try to whatever they can do to create their own version of a home ice advantage, right? The NFL, you've got limited fans and stands. sometimes there's as little as 4,000 fans in an 80,000 seat stadium. And, some places you got about 20,000, but, it doesn't make that much of a difference with 4,000 fans, at that big a barn. The NHL, you don't really have much of that at all right now. And so it's, you're just trying to create whatever you can. And I think this is such a unique situation that, I think it's a little bit it's not a paint by numbers situation. I think it's just, okay, we'll try to figure this out as we go, what works and what doesn't. It's kind of like the piped in crowd noise for some of these broadcasts last year. I think my initial thought was, oh, this is terrible. And then I was kind of like, you know what? Some of this is actually really good. I thought soccer nailed it really well. Baseball with an empty crowd I don't really feel like it misses a beat. The UFC with no fans in the stands, I feel like that's been fine for me. I think it's worked pretty well. I think hockey has been a struggle. I think basketball has been a struggle, in my opinion. But I think piped-in crowd noise has actually worked for the most part, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, it's because it's funny. Alex mentioned, so we work here at Davenport. They have a club college hockey program. They actually have 4 teams. I'm a broadcaster. He was one of the coaches, and everyone's complaining, oh, it's so quiet in here. We got to turn up the music and turn up the crowd noise. And I'm like, buddy, we do like 10:30 games on a Friday night. We're used to no crowds. That's our element. But it makes it really interesting. And you mentioned how guys, goaltenders don't hear them being chanted. I'm pretty sure Frederick Anderson just has to go on Twitter to know what people think about him. Gosh almighty. You're an Ottawa guy, James. What do you think about the Senators? Because it seems like out of all the teams in this division, which we'll get to kind of how we think it's going to play out here in just a minute, Ottawa seems like the only happy-go-lucky team in this division. Everyone else has these expectations. Ottawa's just like, hey, we're here to compete and have some fun and develop our players. Is that kind of what we're getting from the Senators this year?
Well, it sure feels like a house money type year, right? Where this is the first time in, almost 4 years that there's hope again in the nation's capital on this side of the border. There's a belief. You got Stützle there. You got Brady Tkachuk. There's Thomas Chabot. Like, there's some good, young talent that you can say, you know what? I can get behind these guys. I can buy a jersey and feel okay with these guys on the team. Matt Murray, the guy who's won 2 Stanley Cups as a goaltender, and he's only 26. And you're okay. You know what? Maybe there's a guy who can kind of have a bounce back here. There's a lot to like, and Josh Norris, and the list goes on and on. This is a team though that collectively, by pretty much every hockey expert or someone who thinks they're a hockey expert, has projected to finish last. And in every other case in the Canadian division, I can honestly make a strong, compelling argument, personally speaking, of 6 other teams that can win the division, right? That gives one of those teams a shot to be in the conference final, or at least the Final Four in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And that's where, if Ottawa makes the playoffs, it's a huge win of a story. Nobody saw it coming. Ottawa, I think no matter what happens this year, I think people will be surprised at what Ottawa does. Ottawa's going to probably win about 20 games this year. That's the reality. Just statistically, they're going to probably win somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 games, and I'm going to guess somewhere around 20 is going to be where it is. Now, do I think it's going to be enough to get in the playoffs? No. But think about that. 20 games over the course of a 56-game season with 6 other teams that have a legitimate belief that they can win the division, that's a lot of nights they're going to spoil. They're going to play buzzkill, right? If the Leafs, if the Canucks, if the Oilers, if the Flames, if the Jets, the Habs, if they all miss the playoffs, if any of those teams miss them, it's going to be a serious failure for them. Like, it is a stacked division in terms of parity, right? Like, there's a lot to like on every team, but there's a hole on every team. But if any of those teams, other than the Ottawa Senators, miss the playoffs, and guess what? There's 2 of those teams that are going to miss out beyond Ottawa. It's going to be a failure. Somebody's job could be lost behind the bench, right? Changes could be made within the roster as a result of missing out on this season this year. And yet, I'd say that, I don't know if the Canucks are ready to contend for a Stanley Cup just yet, but I think the Canucks are in a position where they feel like they should be able to make some moves in the playoffs, and they've tried to build themselves up into a position that they can make a run. The Habs are certainly built to try to push to go as deep as they possibly can to win a Stanley Cup. The Leafs are certainly built to do that. I think with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, I mean, the window was open for the Oilers to try to win now. I think the Flames certainly feel like they got a shot now with Jacob Markstrom as their goaltender. And the Jets, I mean, they might have as deep a group of forwards in the top six as any in the league. And, you've got a Vezina-winning goaltender, right? Lots of offense and a good goalie. Like, that's a recipe for trying to win a Stanley Cup.
That really is.
It's so interesting because James, I remember your picks you made last week beforehand, and I'm not gonna throw anyone's picks in their face yet. It's only a few games in.
Go ahead.
Well, because here's the thing, and I'll be honest, I'm not afraid to say it. I picked Edmonton to finish last in this division because I just don't. Because when we talked with Ken Wiebe last week, he said the Jets could finish anywhere from 2 to 6, and I agree with him because it's true. But my thing is, after watching this opening weekend, and yes, I think, probably by the end of next month, we'll have a good idea of what's going to shape out to be. But right now, James, I have faith that every team in this division, only 7 teams, that every team can finish from either 1 to 7. We don't know. The Leafs could finish last. The Oilers could finish last. The Sens could finish last. The Sens can finish first. The Leafs can finish first. I know you picked the Habs first. I picked them second. But it's a wide open division, at least until, I'd say probably till the end of next month.
Oh, totally. And like the one trend I have noticed so far is that whoever wins the first game, that sense of urgency for the team that loses in these little mini series, that just the intensity seems to ramp up in the second leg of that little mini series that we're seeing, right? There's a little more desperation. And that's the one trend that it kind of stands out. But the Jets are a perfect example, right? I mean, Patrick Laine, Blake Wheeler, Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, Nick Ehlers, Paul Stastny. that's some pretty good firepower, right? Scheifele checks the boxes of anything you'd want from a two-way setter who can get you 30 goals and get you points and play hard, all of it when healthy, right? Kyle Connor quietly just goes and gets you 30 goals. Nick Ehlers, kind of goes MIA in the playoffs, but man, during the regular season, guy just finds a way to generate points. And Patrick Laine, in a conventional 82-game season, you kind of wait for him to kind of hit 50 goals, right? He's just a 6'5" sniper, and yet, we tend to kind of break him down and bring him down more. To me, I'm surprised that so many times that people write off the Jets. And I've seen so many people picking the Jets for 6th in the division, 5th in the division, wondering if, their window for contending for the Stanley Cup is closed. They've got holes on the blue line, but I can't help but think that with that much firepower and with a good goaltender, it's hard not to think that the Jets are going to find a way to get into that playoff mix. Like, I got the Calgary Flames being on the outside, right? There's a lot of people that, man, Cybulski, WTF, are you freaking crazy?
I'm sure that's exactly what they said, nice and clean.
Yeah, Cybulski, you're an idiot is probably more on the lines of what they're thinking, but that's where I kind of look at whoever's on the outside looking in. Like, I've got the Canucks and the Flames missing with Ottawa. Now, I've seen Ottawa. I've seen a few people try to project, Vancouver. I've seen a few people predict Ottawa either finishing second in that division, possibly even winning. Most people seem to take the Leafs, from what I've seen in most picks. I got the Habs winning. I just love the way the Habs are built. You got 2 good goaltenders. I mean, one excellent goaltender and a very solid number 2. You got a monstrous blue line that's got some mobility. And, while you don't have an alpha dog up front, you've got a bullpen by committee with a lot of really talented forwards who can all kind of chip in and share the scoring load, where it's not just Brendan Gallagher, but the rise of Suzuki. Kotkaniemi looks like he just might be the real deal after all, what we saw in the playoffs. And then you throw in Tatar and Drouin. Josh Anderson looks like a monster through the first couple of games that they have. And Tyler Toffoli's a proven Stanley Cup winner. And then, you got Corey Perry as a depth guy who probably could come in real handy once the playoffs get underway, who showed that, for all of us that wrote off Corey Perry in the regular season last year, how good was Corey Perry in the Stanley Cup playoffs for the Stars?
He played that perfect role, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had him, taken completely out of the entire regular season when he decided to brain someone at the Winter Classic. But that was just me.
It wasn't a brain. It was a blind side hit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that felt like it was about a decade ago, just for all of those that were watching at home.
Shout out to our boy Pete Weber, Nashville broadcaster, friend of the show.
But now, James, you talk about how, we all talk about really how open this division in the North could be, and fans are so excited about having hockey back. The Flames beat the Canucks, Habs beat Oilers, which some would say that was kind of a write-in. Some say not so much because how this series or how the season could play out. Sens have a split with the Leafs, which I was quite shocked about. I told Tyler, I was like, after the Senators won, I was like, well, I guess I have to root for the Senators instead of the Leafs now. But then I guess they'll have to see how the season goes. What do you think, James, are going to be the matchups within this division that fans are going to have to keep their eyes on? And, something that we're going to be super excited about to see. Is it going to be, Flames versus Oilers? How many times this season? Is
10?
it going to be, the original 6 matchups? What's going to be the matchups to look for with the North?
Well, it's hard not to think. I would say this, and maybe I'm just biased in terms of the region that I'm at, but I look at the Flames and the Canucks, right? You look at the storyline where, Jakub Voracek, who was an all-star for the Canucks last year, between the pipes and leaves via free agency, goes to Calgary, gets the 6 years, $6 million AAV contract, and not only goes there, but so too does Chris Tanev. And case in point, Saturday night, there's Jakub Voracek blanking his former team, making 32 saves in the shutout victory for Calgary. And Chris Tanev steps up with 8 block shots against his former team, right? Like, those guys wanted it. And guess what? There's 8 more times that those two teams play, including Monday night. So how does that, two teams that have always had a strong history in terms of the divisional rivalry, going back to the days of the old Smythe division, but how that plays out. If Jakub Markstrom winds up, playing like he did for the bulk of the regular season last year for the Canucks and does that for the Flames, man, the Canucks could very well be on the outside looking in if the Flames dominate that matchup, right? And boy, oh boy, how do you not look at Jim Benning and Canucks management and say, guys, like, you guys totally made the wrong call letting Jakub Markstrom walk. But, here we are now, and I think that's a huge series to keep tabs on. You look at some of the other matchups. I think Toronto and Montreal, there's an old school rivalry. The French and the English go back, 300 years in this country. But I would say with that matchup for those teams, that's something to keep an eye on, because both those teams have, aspirations of winning the division. The Leafs have all sorts of firepower, and they went out and they brought in some key veterans as well this year. But, you look at Montreal, and Carey Price reminded everybody he's still got a lot of gas left in the tank, right? Carey Price is great in the playoffs and can still make big saves. And they brought some size in with Josh Anderson. They brought into Foley. They brought in Joel Edmondson. The Habs got bigger and throughout the lineup, right? I think that will be a real kind of measuring stick for both teams that have hopes of winning the North, or the Poutine division, or the Gord Downie division, however we want to nickname the team. So those are probably, I look at those two as probably two that kind of stand out. And I think the Senators, whoever they wind up matching up with, I think one team is going to wind up with probably a less than favorable record against Ottawa. And that could be the difference of getting into the playoffs or not. Sometimes there's just a team that has your number, right? Winnipeg and Vancouver for the last several years. Winnipeg has had a one-sided record when it comes to matching up against the Canucks. Like, if that trend continues, if teams get dominated by one team this year, that might be the difference from getting into the playoffs and not.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And I'm, now he's getting me all hungry. Now I'm hungry, and now I want to go listen to Nautical Disaster. Talking about the tragically hip division. Man, James getting me. And by the way, say hi to the pupper. We're just glad that Wixie didn't hear her coming, because if she heard a dog barking, she would have started barking. We'd had dogs barking galore here on the Kula Show. But say hello to the pupper, James. We are one of
the millions of families, I think, across North America that got ourselves a COVID puppy. We got Odin. He'll turn a year old in a week from now. And he's our little Entlebucher, which is the smaller version of the Swiss Mountain Dog. And
what a good name.
Yeah, we got it. Well, you know what? Go figure. We got 4 little girls in the house, and the one name that they could all agree on was Thor's dad.
Yep. Hey, it means they're superhero fans.
That's right.
Well, we got a corgi actually in September, and we named her because my wife's like, do you know any girl names? Because we always like to name, like, my dream dog is a dog named Dougie for Dougie Hamilton. It's like, well, she's going to be a girl. What kind of dog? What do you want to name it? I'm like, well, the first one that came to my mind was Haley Wickenheiser. And I'm like, Haley, I don't want to call a dog Haley. I'm like, what about like her hockey nickname, Wixie? And she's like, that's perfect. So we have a dog named Wixie now for Haley Wickenheiser. So I was left with I get to name the dog. She names the babies. So that's how it works here. Well, speaking of Wixie, hi, Wixie.
Everybody's working. Everybody's making it work in these challenging and unique times, right?
And Wixie's on the screen here now, so everyone watching on the 12-ounce sports can tune in and see Wixie's beautiful face for the second week in a row. We've been chatting with James Cybulski, holy cow.
Come on,
James Cybulski of Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver, also on the EA Sports NHL franchise. James, have a wonderful rest of your season. We'll catch you on down the road.
Boys, anytime. Nice to catch up with you guys and stay safe out there.
You as well, sir.
All right, bye now.
Thank you.
That was James Cybulski of Sportsnet 650. And once again, right as we end with a guest, we get Wixie back on the screen. Did you hear me talking about a dog or something? Okay. The wife's back here bringing her in as well. Hi, baby girl.
By the way, you messed up. You don't want to name the dog Dougie for Dougie Hamilton. You want to name the dog Dougie for Doug Gilmore.
Dougie Hamilton, Doug Gilmore. I love him.
I mean, hey, we love Dougie Hamilton. I personally like him. Go Canes.
You know he's going to sign with someone else next year.
No!
Hey, get away from my water. I'll put my water on the ground.
He is a quintessential part of our power play, and by that I mean he sits at the point and they pass it to him.
He bombs it. Okay, two things we got to mention today before we get into any more. One, today's Martin Luther King Day.
Yep.
And also the anniversary of Willie O'Ree making his NHL debut, becoming the first black player to do so. So congratulations for him. And Alex, I almost forgot about this. And of course, we never mentioned this. Willie O'Ree's going to get his number retired by the Boston Bruins.
That is true. And we're watching the game right now, Boston versus the Islanders.
Yep, 0-0 right now in the 4-minute mark, or 4:20 left in the second period. Also, Alex, ready for this?
I'm ready for it.
You know what day it is?
What?
It is Winnie the Pooh Day. We have Winnie the Pooh here on the Keula Show because it's what are you trying to do? No, don't block Winnie the Pooh. I found that out because it was on my memories. January the 18th is Winnie the Pooh Day. I forgot why that's the case. Why is that the case? Kel, do you remember why it's the case? I don't remember why either. Did A. Milton write it on January the 18th or something?
I don't know.
She's not talking over here, which concerns me. Usually she's yelling at me or something.
Maybe. I don't know. She might be mad at you. I mean, we had the door open when we were blasting our pre-show
We're
music.
blasting Collective Soul in here. We had to do something EA Sports NHL themed, even though Cybulski's only done the last couple editions of it. We had to get the best one. Oh, say bye, Wixie.
Yeah.
Bye, baby girl. Oh, look at her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it, Winnie the Pooh Day and also celebrating the first game that Willie O'Ree played in the NHL, breaking the color barrier in NHL hockey. I mean, Pooh is a bear. The Bruins are bears. It's a day.
It's a day.
I couldn't even think of it. But
imagine if everyone's tuning in right now, just watching us. And all of a sudden,
it's a day.
It's a day, and I said Dougie Gilmore and said Doug Hamilton, and I have Winnie the Pooh here because it's Winnie the Pooh Day. And we have hockey on.
And then also we have to mention going off of the Willie O'Ree, the whole thing behind that. I know of at least a few teams posting about wearing the decals on the back of the right behind the ear.
Yes.
The decal of celebrating equality.
Yes.
Decal, which has the face of Willie O'Ree with his phenomenal hat.
Phenomenal hat.
You never would have guessed. No, you would have guessed it because that man is the epitome of class when it comes to that.
Yeah, so
I can't really come up with words. I mean, he did so much for the game and, the development of, just being a face and
there's a reason why he's in the Hall.
For...
Listen, there's a reason why, Alex, he's in the Hall of Fame despite not having those astronomical numbers you expect a Hall of Famer to have. He's in the Hall of Fame because of what he did. I should put Winnie the Pooh away for this, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Winnie the Pooh
as just holding.
No, because he did literally I get it. People are like, oh, because nowadays, I mean, even though there's still racism in this country, as we've seen over the last 6 months and
this
change.
country, the world, you name it.
No, I'm not. Yeah, this country, the world as a whole, and
society,
and that's why it's such a big deal. Still, is that he was able to do it back then, and that's why still today people are fighting for racial justice, and it's so important. That's why, of course, Cody Jansen just tuned in. And by the way, hi, Dad and Colleen, they're watching as well. Cody is tuning in right now, and Cody was the one who I had on the show on that Thursday when the NHL boycotted those playoff games for that day, and the Friday after. We had a long talk about it because we felt like it was necessary to talk about it. And it's because of guys like Willie O'Ree who stood up and were the first ones to say, you know what, I can just play. I can do this. And credit to the Boston Bruins for giving him that opportunity. And guess what? He made history, and glad we're still celebrating it today.
Yeah. Quick, I'm gonna block my screen a little bit so you can't. What was the minor league team that Willie O'Ree played for?
It was a Quebec team. It was a Quebec team.
It was a Quebec team. What was the name of the team?
Montreal Aces.
No, it was the Quebec Aces.
Quebec Aces. I knew it was in Quebec, but man.
Yes.
Of course, then Montreal had their own team in their own backyard.
It was midway through his second minor league season with the Aces.
He only played
when he was called up to the Bruins.
6 games?
With the Bruins or the Aces?
The Bruins, 6 games, right?
Scroll down.
Just scroll down. Just keep scrolling. He'll have his stats somewhere. There you go.
Yes. Okay. So
he played
Quebec
in
Aces, Boston Bruins. He played 43 games.
Oh, I think he played 6, got sent back down, then came back up. That's why I remember there was a single digit because he went back down and then he came back up, played the rest of the season.
Yeah. But yes, all of that, and okay, quick, not really good segue.
You're awful at segues, Alex. We know
I know. We were having great segues before the show, and now
because I created the segues.
But I'm just saying we kind of talked. We talked about it with James during the interview.
James Cybulski, by the way. If you're just tuning in, we talked to EA Sports NHL play-by-play voice and co-host of the starting lineup in Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver, James Cybulski. Yeah, I almost said it when I was signing off with him. I almost said TSN.
That's a pretty good interview. I like that.
That was fun. James, listen, I knew he's going to be a fun guy because I know people that know him, and they say...
I mean, he definitely has a personality, and I think that's a huge reason why
he's on radio.
The NHL approached him to be on the game. You don't want to have someone that's, he shoots, he scores.
So you're telling me we didn't want to have Doc Emmerich and Eddie Olczyk again?
Hey.
There's a reason why they kept Ray Ferraro.
Hey, be nice to Doc. He's retired.
It was the video game aspect of it. I will say this, though. I have a guy at work.
A shot from the blue.
He's about 10 years older than I am. I told him, hey, check it out. Like, I didn't tell him the name. Like, we're going to have the voice of the NHL games on our show next Monday. What do you say? Jim Houston? And I'm like, you are, darn it. No, we have James Cybulski.
Great save!
We had James Cybulski because it's funny, like, playing the games now, because I go off and on, I'll have the sound on, I'll have the sound off. Of course, Cybulski is the radio host of the radio show that's on when you're doing the Be a Pro mode.
Yeah.
So you only get to hear James Cybulski doing a show when it's James Cybulski pretty much doing his own show, so it works perfectly.
Yeah. And I mean, that's like a...
Did Jim Houston ever do his own radio show? No, he did not. Well, he may have. I don't know. But not in the video games, though.
No. That's a whole thing. Like the new NHL, like Be a Pro experience. But what I was going to say was we talked about it and with the whole like piping in like the fan noise and stuff.
Oh, you mentioned I took it off because I know I'm going to respond right away.
Absolutely. I'm just saying, I think it'd be hilarious if it's not going to happen this season.
Okay,
but
I was about to say.
If the Toronto Maple Leafs played in Long Island versus the Islanders, if the Islanders, whenever John Tavares touched the puck, just have them relentless booing.
Well, because that's the one thing, too, Alex.
You have to be accurate.
No, because that's the one thing, too. You don't have any boos. There's no boos. It's just very quiet noise. There's never any boos in the arenas.
There should be. That'd be. I would love that.
Well, because we're watching the game Saturday night, you and I, Sens and Leafs. They're in Ottawa. We're watching it and we just see. All right, here come the Senators. They do. It was their first home. No, Friday. It was their first home game, and the Leafs come out. Here come the Toronto Maple Leafs, and just quiet. I'm like. Well, first of all, if this were actually the regular season, they'd be cheering because it's the Leafs, and the Leafs bring everyone out of Ottawa that's a Leafs fan because even though the Ottawa Senators have been there for now, this is their 30th season, They still don't care. There's a
Not
reason
that they don't care.
they
It's
couldn't sell out their arena in the playoffs.
Tyler.
In the conference finals.
Tyler.
With Clark MacArthur being a
Tyler.
hero.
Tyler.
With Mike Hoffman.
Tyler.
And Eric Carlson.
Tyler.
And Craig Anderson.
Tyler.
Colin Smith was there? I think he was.
At the Senators game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the Sens team for the. He was. Oh no, he played one game because. Oh, who was the one guest we had when we were talking about the Sens the one time? He was in the chat all the time. What was you remember which one I'm talking about though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but no. Well, here's the thing. When the Red Wings were great and they were or even competitive, it was very hard for a Leafs fan to get a ticket, right? The last season when me and Katie went, there was a lot of blue. Why? Because the Leafs were good, Wings were not.
Yeah. But when Kellen
so
went
when
there
a
the first
team is
year-
when a team is underperformed for a good amount of time, there's not going to be too many fans that show up because why spend your money on a game that it's a possibility you're going to lose.
I get that.
The only fans that are going to be season ticket holders are the diehard fans, or at the very least, fans that just love hockey. They don't care who wins.
I will say
'Cause
this.
you do have that also.
If I lived in like
People that watch hockey just to watch the Stars play.
if I lived
Not the Dallas Stars, like superstars.
Well, people are watching them in Dallas because Dallas, they're not playing right now, Alex. You want to know why? Because Texas is stupid. But hey, okay, I'm sorry.
you can't just call out an entire state. Like
Do you
that.
want me to pull up the image of when they were in the conference finals at the height of the pandemic? By the way, when they had fans in American
Yes,
Airlines
Tyler,
Center.
we get it.
Want to know how many
They had to cancel games, or didn't
Alex,
cancel games.
hey.
They had to postpone games. We get it.
Ben Bishop wearing dress clothes is wearing more masks than the people in that crowd.
Fair enough. Let's get into the recap before we go to commercial, and then we have our second guest on the show.
Mike McKenzie, Kitchener Rangers GM.
So we talked about the North Division going wild. It's Tim Stutzel's first goal. I'm sorry.
So
I saw it. You didn't. You came back in the room, and I was like,
let me explain.
oh, no.
So we did the double TV on Saturday night, which we'd never done before because we have the TV in here now. We have the TV out in the living room. I thought, hey, we have a couple people over. Let's get both TVs out because obviously the NFL was going on, so we got to watch that boring game between Buffalo and Baltimore. There was the one interception that was returned for a touchdown, but that was it. Regardless, we have the game out. I take Wixie out because unfortunately I don't want her to poop on the floor. I go out. The Leafs were up 3-1 at that point. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm not going to miss a whole lot. What do I miss? Probably one of the best goals of the weekend, maybe of the month, maybe of the season if nothing crazy else happens. Tim Stützle's first NHL goal. He didn't get 4, though. He's not Austin Matthews, Alex. It's okay.
No.
Austin Matthews, by the way, did score in that game against Ottawa. But I just everything about that play, the deflection up in the air, and Jack Campbell's looking at it. I'm like, do I want to catch this like a pop fly? And Tim Stützle, who has the weirdest tape job in the history of hockey.
Stützle?
Stützle. It's Stützle. Everyone says it's Stützle, but it's Stützle.
I'm going to say Stützle until further notice.
Hey, okay, fine. You do what you want. But he's watching this thing, and he's like, all right, my one weird horizontal piece of tape is going to clap bomb this into the back of the net. And Campbell's like, he's not really going to. And then, bam! He went Hogan on it, Alex.
Well, he has more than just a couple. He has at least 2 pieces going horizontal, and he tapes the toe.
He has the toe. He has enough of the toe.
It's a weird tape job, but hey, if it works, it works.
Okay,
but no,
it's not. It's not Peter Klima with the zero.
It was
tape.
an epic goal, nonetheless. Batting it basically out of the air, comes straight down, goes to about ice, little smack, go, boom, in.
Hey, breaking news: Adam McQuaid's retiring.
Huh?
I didn't know he wasn't even playing.
Neither did I.
We'll talk about another guy that's potentially retiring here in a little bit. Wait, who's for the? Is that Jake DeBrusk doing the similar tape job? He's got. I was watching the highlights.
People are doing weird tape jobs nowadays. It's just the trend.
Stützle's the best forward in the tournament, in the World Junior Tournament. Everyone's going to tape their stick that way now.
Okay.
I'm going to go honestly and do a few games this year, and I'm going to see people with knock on wood that I do.
I'll
games this year.
retape my stick like that. I don't care.
You know what, Alex? That's just like the fact that you have tape on your stick is just. I mean. I'll say this: you have gotten a lot better at your tape jobs. I used to have to tape your sticks. Actually, no, Dad.
When I was literally 4 years old. Yes.
I was literally 4.
Yes, when I was 4 years old. After that, I could do my own tape. Thank you.
Yeah.
Chicago, you're bad.
Chicago. Well, okay.
That's the next point.
I'm sorry. When you have was it Colin D'Elia who just ate it against
Who cares?
Tampa, I think it was.
I don't care.
Listen.
Your goalies are bad. Your team's bad. Jonathan Taves is not going to be there for a long time after.
I don't know. We still don't have any update on that.
Patrick Kane is not going to be there for a long time after.
Kirby Doc's out until he's out for the season at this point. He's not because they're not going to make the playoffs.
Out probably out.
No,
the most redeeming part of your team,
I think,
is your jerseys, and even then, we still got to talk about the logo.
Here's the
we'll
thing.
Talk about that later.
I think the crazy thing that happened, Alex, is they were supposed to go for, the rebuild. And then this, 2014 playoff happens, and all of a sudden, hey, guys, we're good. And we won a round. We got into the actual playoffs, and then they got smoked by Vegas. But, hey, they're still competitive. Maybe they'll be good again. And then they lose Corey Crawford. Couldn't get any other goaltender. Malcolm Subban, your starter. Your captain's not going to play because, unfortunately, he's still we still don't know what's wrong with him. Hopefully it's he's going to be able to recover from this, whether it be comes back and plays hockey or just as a person. By the way, Henrik Lundqvist, successful heart surgery. You saw that the other day.
Yep,
that's good to hear. But as long as there's no expectation for this team, and I still stand by my belief that Chicago will finish behind Detroit. That's my take on that.
Yes.
Which is a perfect segue to talk about today's game, the 12 o'clock game. So that's probably why Cybulski didn't watch it. He was just leaving the studio when that game was going on. I was able to listen to it at work, and I caught the end. So Wings went up. Columbus comes back. They end up winning the game 3-2. Detroit, they're not awful. Mark Stahl is a liability, but shoot. You remember?
As soon as we found out that Mark Stahl was going to play for the Wings, we're like, oh, great.
All I said was, great locker room guy. Everything else is going to suck about him.
Right. No, that
who was it? Was it Brad Crisco from Winged Wheel Podcast? And I'm like, this guy's going to be a problem, isn't it? And I'm like, buddy, you've never watched the Rangers, have you? Like 2014 was 7 years ago, children. That's how long it's been.
I'm just going to say, if I remember correctly, like a good third, if not half of the goals from the Canes-Rangers series had Mark Stahl on the ice.
Yeah, it's not good. And I chuckle because I get it. You want to have everyone be competitive and you want to, have them be better. Listen, I know people tore apart Anthony Mantha, and listen, his work ethic is a question. Buddy, we watched him in Grand Rapids for 2 years, 3 years? His work ethic was a problem. I know him personally. I met him. He's a great guy, got great hands. We've seen how great he could be an NHL star. He's got the work ethic of...
he's a Thomas Yurko.
Well, no, I think he's better than Thomas Yurko. Thomas Yurko was a YouTube star.
Skill-wise, better. Yes, he's better than Thomas Yurko. I'm talking about attitude. And that's the one stat that's not shown on the sheet, if you will.
Can we, though, talk about Bobby Ryan? 2 goals in 2 games, fighting, and he got in that scuffle. Listen, Bobby Ryan knows his days are numbered. But good for him, though, right?
I mean, if you're going to try to make an impact on a new team and try to, set a precedent of, hey, I want some job security, this is a great team to have it with, where you can put yourself in a position to stay on the team for a while and, try to do something while you're there. I mean, you don't want to just keep playing your own game.
Right.
So like Bobby Ryan, there's like the whole thing around, the off ice stuff and that people got into, and I don't think he's a good fit for the Wings, and obviously he's showing that he is, and I think he's really proving to himself and to this team, and honestly this division that he's going to be a part of the Wings that is going to be the part where we're like, I mean, they're not awful.
Well, don't forget, Danny Gare, Buffalo Sabres legend, was the captain before Steve Yzerman. This is, guys, I get it, because our generation is used to the 25 consecutive playoff appearances, Stanley Cups, all this stuff, Russian 5, Stevie Yzerman. I get it.
There was a Dead Wings era.
Yeah. Our dad's watching this right now. He was a kid. He remembers. Remember Lee Norwood? No one does.
Nope.
Remember Glenn Millen being a goaltender for the Wings? No. Remember Jimmy Rutherford? He's a general manager for the Penguins. Yeah, he used to suck for the Wings as a goaltender. They were bad. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why Eddie Jackman got picked up by the Wings, because literally he got put on waivers, and the Wings we need a capable goaltender, and Jackman, he can be a guy, right? Yeah. The Wings are going to be bad, but
they're not going to be awful.
They're not going to be awful. I want to say
it's not that they're going to be bad.
I'm going to say this, Alex. This is 1985 Detroit. The end goal's there.
Can we just say this? Let's just say this. It's not that they're going to be bad. It's just not that they're good. They're just not good enough.
Like I said, they'll finish 7th in that division. They'll be competitive.
I think they might surprise people.
But man,
maybe there's a chance that they could honestly surprise people, and they could not finish second to last. They could honestly do something. That's a whole other story. Is just whether or not they can do that.
I think we have to carry some of this over after we talk to Mike. But here's the thing. Listen, about that game, though, Columbus. I know we're excited for Nashville and Detroit to maybe have a rivalry again. Columbus and Detroit. That is a rivalry built at the collegiate level and has made its way up to the National Hockey League. It's going to be great.
Honestly, for me, it's not even – it's more of a Detroit is looking like they want to play hockey again.
And there's like I said, they fight.
And it's exciting to me.
And they actually were – and I say, oh, they're fighting. Well, yeah, they're fighting, but that's because, there was some pushing and shoving. And Bertuzzi decided to take out half the team. Bobby Ryan went after Oliver Bjorkstrand, by the way, Alex. And, Michigan boys, Dylan Larkin and Zach Werenski get into it. But everyone's like, oh, my goodness, it's just a whatever gong show. Listen, it's because they were mad. It was feisty game.
It was 3-2. There was about, what?
Well, it was 3-1 at that point. They scored after the fight.
No, that's right.
So you see, kids, fighting gets you back in the game. Wayne Simmons can attest.
No, 3-1 in the game. There's about 50 seconds left in the third. And, you have 6 skaters on the ice. What was it? It was a 6-on-5, right? Yeah, it was a 6-on-5. And you want to score. You want to, try to keep the game close as much as you can. So what do? You put 6 guys on the ice. You scramble to the net, and you try to put the puck in. Puck eventually does go in. They call it off because, obviously there was 10 bodies in the crease at the same time.
Well, they reversed it. Remember, because that was the whole tweet debacle? You're talking about the one where they had the fights.
Where they actually had the fights.
Okay, so you're talking about before. Because there was the one where Corpusalo got ran into, and then Jackets Twitter's like, hey, stop running our goaltender. It's not that hard. And the Wings
went, not that one. No, the one where they were actually in a dog pile on top of Corpusalo, and the puck was in the net, and they were like, nope, no goal. But
they didn't care. Bertuzzi's like, give me a body.
He took 3.
He took everybody. He went full Dustin Byfuglien, but he's like half the size of Dustin Byfuglien. It's really a spirited effort. What do we call it?
Yeah, so... moving on, Keith Yandel keeps his Ironman streak alive, 867 games played so far. He scores his 100th goal. It's the longest active streak in the NHL. Minnesota, a pair of OT wins against LA, which those games should not have gone to overtime, but I digress. And Jakub Voracek calling out a journalist. This might be something that we might have to talk a little bit more after with Mike.
Yeah.
After we get off with Mike.
We'll save the Voracek one for after when we get to the news and notes. Can we though talk? Quick thing on Keith Yandel. Listen, because there was talk that he was going to get put on the taxi squad, which would have ended his Ironman streak, the longest right now. He is less than 100 games away from Doug Jarvis. And here's what I say to this, Alex. You remember was it our second or third show when Andrew Cogliano got suspended?
All time?
No, second or third show ever. Remember, that was the one where I went off because he hit Adrian Kempe and it ended his Ironman streak at 900 some games. He was 1 season away.
I can't remember which show it was, but that was towards the beginning of us actually doing the show. And you were incensed, if you will.
Well, because I didn't think at that looking back on it, hindsight 2020, just a different, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Clear, because I don't want, the word 2020 just makes me, even though 2021 is not much better.
So far.
Well, yeah. But I look back at that, yes, that should have been a suspension. But it sucks because Cogliano was going to break, there was no question in my mind that he was going to break Doug Jarvis's, his Ironman streak. 964 games is the record, by the way. Beat Gary Unger to 912. And I thought that would be, you know what? It sucks because he lost it. If you just take a guy out of the lineup because of that, and that's what ends it, that is a little bit harder to swallow. Because Keith Yandel, listen, I get it. He's not young. He's still an all-star compared to last year. But he can still be there, and he can help these kids move along, continue to progress. and he's still a good defenseman. They don't have it. Not like Florida's got the stacked defense, Alex. They have Ekblad, and I don't have Mata anymore. Who the heck's on their defense? That's exactly my point, though.
They don't have a lot.
They don't have a lot, and they need some veterans there, and that's why I think I'm glad that Quenneville and Zito said, you know what, let's give Yandel the chance. Let's let him play. And then he scores his 100th goal, proving everyone that, see, kids, this is why I should be here all the time, thinking that Keith Yandel speaks like he's a 75-year-old man from the 60s. But he's coming out here like Walt Cronker. Walt Cronker? Yeah. Walt Cronker. That was the old newsman guy.
Sure.
I think so.
While you're trying to figure
the
that
news.
out, we are going to take a quick commercial break before we get Mike McKenzie on.
Mike McKenzie.
At the top of the hour, 7 p.m. here on the live show on 12 Ounce Sports. We'll be back right after this. Goodbye. Bye-bye.
You didn't have to say goodbye.
What?
We're literally
Goodbye.
coming, we are literally coming back.
Goodbye.
We are literally
Goodbye.
coming back right after this. Like, you didn't have to just get all bubba goodbye like we see for everybody.
And we are back here live on 12 Ounce Sports, presented by Second String Leather Company, hashtag crafted from the crease. The pandemic has had an effect all across the hockey landscape in North America and abroad, especially at the younger levels.
Yes.
Joining us now is a man who's looking to help out youngsters whose development may be lacking this season. He is the general manager of the Kitchener Rangers of the Ontario Hockey League in Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, none other than Mike McKenzie.
Hey, Mike, how we doing?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, so Mike, it's kind of interesting because I've been talking to people around the OHL before we get to the main course on why we had you on here today. Is there an update right now with the OHL schedule? It sounds like the league's saying next month still. Is there an update on when the Rangers and the rest of the league are going to be hitting the ice?
Not really at this point, no. It's been pretty quiet right now. Ontario has recently, a couple weeks back, announced that they were taking a lot more restrictive measures in the province, not just for hockey, but in general. So things are pretty tight around here in Ontario, and it's almost, completely out of the league's hands at this point. There's pretty strict stay-at-home orders throughout the province. Schools are shut down and things like that. So it's not just affecting hockey, but obviously hockey, the Ontario Hockey League is getting impacted by it. So at this point, the league's just kind of told us they'll stay in touch, and once they have a bit more information from government and health officials, then they'll be in touch and pass that along to us. But we're kind of in limbo right now, just in a little bit of a wait and see mode, and hopefully we can get a little bit more clarity in the coming weeks here of what's going to happen.
Yeah, and we've had guests on our show, through the OHL, USHL, and all around the junior and collegiate landscape. So that definitely, we hope to see some OHL hockey sometime soon. But getting really to the meat of the sandwich, if you will, of having you on the show with us. You started doing a webinar series that is aimed at helping minor/youth hockey players. What inspired you to start doing this webinar?
It's kind of a funny way it kind of began in my head, I guess, and it goes back a little bit to what I was just talking about when Ontario announced that there was going to be more restrictions. And I have two young kids. One of them's not in school; they're too young. But my daughter is, just turned 3 in November, and she's in a preschool kind of kindergarten thing. So they announced that schools were going to remain shut down after Christmas break for a couple weeks, and in some places even longer. And I found myself, sitting at home as a frustrated dad and frustrated parent, thinking, "Oh man, my daughter can't go back to school. That's extremely frustrating. She's not going to get to go to class. She won't get in that routine and all those important social aspects of going to school and things like that." And, it was frustrating for me. And then I started thinking a little bit more about the bigger picture, and almost how lucky, in a sense, that I am and our family is that our kids are so young. And yes, they're, one of them is missing out on school, but they're not, on teams. They're not old enough to really understand the significance of what's going on, and also lose out on so many opportunities, from recreational activities to hockey to whatever, because basically everything is shut down right now. And it got me thinking, maybe, if I'm feeling this way, I can't even imagine what a parent of a, 8-year-old, 13-year-old, 15-year-old is feeling, and how tough that must be on the parents, seeing their kids miss out on this, the toll it takes on mental health, things like that, but also how the kids feel and how hard that must be for kids not being able to be on their team, play the sport they love. So I started trying to think of ideas and ways where, we could help, and it's obviously limited right now, but the webinar series was one, idea that I kind of thought on, and I started putting the pieces together in my head and writing some stuff down, and it kind of just grew from there. And it's been great so far. We just had our first one on Sunday, and we're going to continue doing them for the next 4 weeks or so, every Sunday. And the turnout was great. We had, I think, over 160 people on the call, which was really cool to see, all different ages, all different levels, all different genders. It was basically a complete mix of kids from mostly Ontario, but some from outside Ontario as well. So it was really great to see, and we're excited to continue on with them.
Yeah, so for the next 4 weeks, that's an awesome initiative, because, I keep seeing videos of, I follow numerous coaches, numerous trainers, just posting videos like, here's what you should be doing today. Here's a good workout to do today. Here's what you should be trying to do. And it's very tough because, these kids are watching it, but they're not really able to have that back and forth engagement. And I guess that's really what the goal of this series is, Mike. So you can kind of, give response to these players and let them know, hey, here's what you can be doing. And they can ask you questions, and you can have that interaction that you would almost have as a coach and a player.
Yeah, for sure. It's nice because, none of it is there's no equipment needed. You don't need ice, you don't need a stick, you don't need anything. It's just you need a computer, an internet connection, and you can log on or watch. And like you said, there's a Q&A portion as well where you can ask questions throughout the presentation, and we try to answer as many as we can at the end. But we're trying to touch on all different topics as well. The first one was a little more general in nature about the sport of hockey and hockey during, a pandemic, and lessons we can learn in hockey and leaving hockey in a better place, for everyone involved. So we'll start getting into different topics and really trying to, share my wisdom that, I've learned throughout the game from other people, since I've been involved in the game as a player and a manager and coach, and try to pass that down to younger kids, no matter what level they're at. So that's kind of the goal of it. And I know the feedback was quite good after the first one, and hopefully we can continue on with that.
Yeah, and through this pandemic, we've seen, through different industries, and especially in the hockey world, and,
I guess sports in general, I'd say.
Yeah, sports in general. we've seen more and more how much technology has been able to help us do all the things that we can try to normally do on a day-to-day basis, whether it be through Zoom meetings or, doing broadcasts via satellite with the playoffs last year in the NHL. And we see that, time and time again, and it's just becoming more prevalent as time goes on. Now, from your perspective, how important do you think technology has become in terms of running a hockey team, and how that also affects the development of hockey players?
I think it's extremely important. I think, especially now, like you guys said, it's one of those things where, if you were behind with the technology heading into this situation, then, it's probably been a little more difficult. But with our organization, we try to keep on top of things like that and be as innovative as possible in terms of technology and using different things and ideas. So it hasn't been too much of a change for us. But I mean, you have to evolve and you have to adapt to different things. And, I think everyone's probably sick of the Zoom calls and the stuff online. It will be nice at some point to get back to, face-to-face meetings. And I don't think, at the end of the day, I don't think you can ever really fully replace some of those interactions. Like it's, we're humans and we're people. And I think there's a need for that face-to-face interaction. I would hate to see all this continue virtually, even when things get better. But it's definitely important for us right now, using video, especially to scout, not being able to cross the border, watching American players through video and things like that. And even Ontario players, since we don't really have access to go to the rink, watching video from earlier in the season when there was games being played. So, things like that. And the Zoom calls, obviously those are happening instead of face-to-face scouting meetings and things like that. So yeah, it's definitely important. But I would just hate for it to replace completely all that human interaction. Hopefully we can get back to that at some point when it's safe to do so.
Yeah, it's so weird because before all this, I didn't know what Zoom was. I knew there was Skype. I didn't like Skype. I liked always talking to people on the phones or getting interactive with them. But do you think, Mike, that this is going to be something that people will continue to use to help coach? Because, you can call your trainer from, if he lives 2 hours away. Because I know some guys, especially goaltenders, they have their goaltenders back in their hometown or somewhere else. And, they'll want to be like in contact with them. And, they could almost, in a Zoom call perspective, you could, show them, here's what I'm doing. What do you think? And you could almost do that with players yourself. Do you think this kind of technology that we're developing, kind of using ourselves and learning to use more and more as the pandemic goes on, do you think that's going to be used in the future? Or do you think they're just hopefully just going to be just go back to quote unquote normal, the old normal, I guess you can say?
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned not knowing about Zoom before all this started, because I actually did know about Zoom, but the only reason I did know about it was because my wife was taking a course online, and she used to always say, okay, I have to go on Zoom and do a Zoom call. And finally, I had no idea what she was talking about or what that meant. And finally, probably a year and a half ago, before this pandemic, I finally said, what does Zoom mean? Like, what is that? And she goes, oh, it's just like an online thing. It's like Skype, but a different platform. And I was like, oh, okay. So, and then a couple months later, who knew we'd all be basically living our whole lives on Zoom? So I guess the joke was on me for making fun of her for being on this thing called Zoom, and it pretty much controls all our lives now. So, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely some advantages, I think. Like you said, I don't think it'll fully replace, actual face-to-face training and stuff. But I think where teams and organizations can really add, or coaches can add, is stacking that on top of what you already do, and adding an extra element and getting more touches on a player, giving them more resources, because you don't physically have to be face-to-face to do that stuff anymore. And there's lots of technology options like Zoom where you can do stuff like that. So I think it definitely will continue on. I don't think to the extent that we see it now, obviously, once face-to-face interaction starts happening and coaching starts happening again. But I think if you could stack the virtual stuff on top of the normal way of doing things, then you can really probably increase that rate of development for a player.
Yeah, I know I've heard from a lot of coaches at the kind of like middle school-ish level that, instead of doing off-ice training in the future that they might do, instead of that, if they have, like a day off or whatever, they'll just do like a Zoom call and have everyone on, and they'll do, their training or whatever, something as an idea moving forward. Now, with the webinar series, back to that, this is something that I feel a lot of people could, get really involved in, and it could help a lot of youth players, especially with, like you said, hockey parents. They want to have their kids have the best experience that they possibly can, and giving them everything that they can to get better and try to find some sort of something to keep them active, especially when sometimes they're not able to get outside the house. How can people sign up?
Yeah, so the best way to sign up is I just posted on my Twitter account, which is at Mike McKenzie 11 on Twitter. And usually it'll be every Wednesday, I'll post a link and a registration link via my Twitter page. And all you have to do is basically click on that link, and it'll take you to a registration page. It'll ask you for your email, a few questions about your age, level of play, the team you play for, things like that. And you basically just click register, and it'll shoot off an email right in your inbox, and you'll basically have the link to join the webinar, whenever, and you just click the link whenever the time comes to actually join it and that day comes. So it's a really easy process. It's free, doesn't cost any money. That was an important piece of the puzzle for myself. I wanted to make it open to anyone. And that's the reason why it's completely free. There's no money being asked for. So it's really simple, actually. If you can find my Twitter account, then you can find the registration link, and it's you can basically be signed up in less than a minute.
Well, that sounds pretty easy. I mean, geez, it seems like every kid nowadays can just whip out their phone and find 70,000 apps before you know it. I mean, geez, I'd like to think I know how to work this phone. What is this? The S11, I think it is. I don't know. My wife bought it for me. It's a very fancy one. But I mean, what is, you said you got, yesterday was the, just a general one, say, hey, here's what we're going to do. Do you know what's your topic going to be for the next one, next Sunday?
Yeah, I think right now we've decided that we're going to look at doing the next one on mindset and mentality. So we're going to focus a lot on, obviously these are hockey webinars, but there's going to be a lot of carryover, especially in a few of them, to just in general sports. Like if you were not a hockey player and you came on the webinar, every time we said hockey, you replaced that with your sport. You could probably get just as much out of it as a hockey player, especially the one, like I said, mindset and mentality, that one. And also, even if you're not an athlete, and that was the other important piece for myself when I created this, was that I wanted to try to give kids, their fix of hockey, and improving in hockey and ways they can improve in hockey, but also improve as just people in general, and teach them some life lessons and teach them some little tricks or ways to just, overall improve their life in any area, whether it's at school or other sports they play or whatever it may be. So we try to keep it as general as possible, because we are dealing with a lot of different ages and levels, and sometimes that can be a bit of a challenge to create content for a 7-year-old, and you're also creating the same content for a 15-year-old, and it's difficult to find that balance between keeping the 7-year-old interested, making it, at a level where they can understand what you're talking about, but also keeping the 15-year-old engaged at the same time, and vice versa. So that's kind of what we're trying to do with the topics, but I'm excited about the mindset and mentality one. I think there's a lot of really good stuff in there that can help these kids, not only in hockey, but in other sports and just in life in general as well.
Because that's a really important thing too during these times. Because I work in news talk radio, so I get a lot of reports, and a lot of the things I've been hearing about, people trying to, just trying to strengthen themselves, and because it's obviously it's very hard on everybody during this pandemic, and in trying to make sure you get all the sports in. Because I don't know if you're like me, Mike, but Alex, he didn't play hockey, but he played lacrosse and soccer. I played hockey and baseball, almost played football. I was pretty close to doing that. I mean, you have that mindset too that kids should not just be, I don't say pigeonholed, but only playing one sport. They should be able to be kind of well versed around the spectrum of not just playing one sport, but playing multiple.
Yeah, that was something we actually talked about on the first episode a little bit, or first session, I should say, is just, not tying your complete life identity to just being strictly a hockey player. And what I mean by that is, you're obviously going to identify yourself as a hockey player if you play hockey, but it's sometimes not healthy just to have that one-track mind and just strictly identify as a hockey player, and that's it. Sometimes there has to be more out there, and there's more activities, there's more hobbies, there's more interests, and I think that's important for kids to realize sometimes, is that, there's other stuff out there. And that was kind of one of the messages that we delivered on the first one, especially right now with COVID going on. It's a great time for you to pick up new hobbies, learn new skills, not just hockey related stuff, and really branch out and find different things to do. And I was the same as you guys. I grew up playing hockey in the winter and lacrosse in the summer. I never played hockey year round like a lot of kids do now. So I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. If a kid does want to play hockey and he loves the game that much that he really wants to play hockey year round, then if he enjoys it that much, then hey, more power to you. Do what you enjoy, do what's fun for you. But I think in most cases, most kids, do need a break sometimes, and it is good to expand your athleticism and learn new skills, and it's only going to make you a better hockey player probably in the end as well.
Yeah, and like you said, Mike, for more information on the hockey webinars with that, at Mike McKenzie 11 on Twitter.
The number 11, by the way.
Yes, the number 11. So Mike McKenzie at the number 11 on Twitter. Make sure to check out his Twitter on Wednesdays, because that's when he's going to post the leaks, or try to at the very least. Mike, thank you so much for being on the show. It's very, very fun to talk with you, and it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Thanks for having me and giving me a chance to kind of share more awareness with this stuff.
Hey, growing the game as much as we can, that's what we like to do here on the show, any way we can.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Mike, we'll talk to you later.
Have a good one.
Mike McKenzie, the general manager of the Kitchener Rangers. Great guy. Good teeth, according to his smile that he had on the picture there.
Good teeth, huh?
Well, even though he had a kind of like a fierce look, because Mike McKenzie is one of the sons of Bob McKenzie,
Bobby Margaritaville.
Bobby Margaritaville, and of course his son Sean works for Sportsnet.
Yep.
And Mike is the general manager. And Mike, by the way, where he played his college hockey at?
The University of Utah.
What? Are you just taking random?
Nebraska Omaha.
Nebraska Omaha. Is that really what you're going to go with?
What's the
Quinnipiac?
Ah, that one. Did he play at that one?
No, he played in that conference though. Played for St. Lawrence. The Saints. He was a Saint.
Hey, at least he didn't play for Lawrence Tech.
Well, that's not even a Division One. So
I just don't like him.
I don't like Lawrence Tech either. They're in our conference. You never like a team that's in your conference. Sorry, we almost got really distracted there for a second because we got the Jets and Leafs on now behind us. They're in Toronto. 0-0, 12:45 left in the opening period. Shots are 4-4, by the way. Freddie Anderson got bowled over, and Alex and I we both just kind of like.
Is that Freddie Anderson?
Yeah, Freddie's in net.
I thought he was playing the puck weird.
He's got the. Oh, shut up. Well, like he gets bowled over, I type in the text, and I'm like, don't look. Because I mean,
I didn't look. I watched it happen.
I meant like don't stare at it because people can kind of tell when we're looking at the screen. I mean, they could tell. Remember the highlight when we watched Lucas Raymond pot the play from Alexander Holtz against Austria? Both of us were like, it looked like we thought we were like kind of like right next to the camera so we could see it. We looked like we were looking up into the ceiling.
Yeah, you gotta put the camera a little bit center on the TV, or at least like mount it up a little bit.
I wonder if I could mount it on the TV, because if you put it up against it, then the TV's got like on the back and it's gonna fall over. And I don't want to do that. Alex, the reason why I wanted to bring up the college hockey, where he's from, because Alex.
Yes.
You know what it's time for, Alex?
It's time for the college scoreboard.
Brought to you by our friends at Second String Leather Company, secondstringleather.com, #crafted from the crease. Let's get into it, folks. We had a lot of games. We'll go over to Wednesday. Alex turns off his mic and starts dancing like a buffoon. You're still on screen. You know that, right? Wednesday, Hockey East action. Northeastern beating New Hampshire 7-0. 4 points for Zach Solo in that game. Non-conference action. AIC beating Long Island 5-2. And then we also had on Friday, as we go over to that, let's flip that onto the screen for you. Army beating LIU 5-2. Mason Kruger's first ever career hat trick. I'll have a good little story about the LIU Army thing here when we get done with this college hockey scoreboard, brought to you by Section 11 Company. #for the Grease. Big Ten hockey action. Number 9 Michigan beats Ohio State 4-2. Nolan Moyle 2 goals in that game. And Eric Portillo, his first collegiate win as a Wolverine, the freshman, picking up the win in that one. Notre Dame beating number 1 Minnesota 3-2. Graham Slaggert and his brother Landon Slaggert combined for 5 points. Graham had a goal and 2 assists with the game-winning goal as well. Michigan State falls to Penn State in overtime. Alex Limoges, the game-winning goal in that one. ECAC action. St. Lawrence, Alex. There you go. There's that segue. Beating number 13 Clarkson 2-1 in overtime. Luke Salem, the game-winning goal. Emil Zetterquist, best pads in the league, or in the conference, or in the country, where you look at it. 36 saves in that one. Quinnipiac beating Colgate 3-0. On Friday. Hockey East, Maine beats Providence 4-3. Ben Poisson 2 goals for the Black Bears. Victor Osman 37 saves in that one. UConn beating New Hampshire 6-5 overtime. Wild one. Carter Turnbull hat trick and the game-winning goal. Alex, he did it all for the Huskies on that night. Vladislav Furtsov, though, had the best night. 2 goals and 2 assists for 4 points in that one. NCHC action. Western Michigan beating number 4 St. Cloud. Western Michigan, who couldn't score more than 2 goals and give up more than 6. They were able to pull off the win. Paul Wash and Ronnie Attard and Josh Basalt each had a goal and assist. Tim Wash, his first collegiate goal, brother of Paul, for the Broncos. Minnesota State, number 5, beating Long Island. Oh, my gosh. LSSU, Lake Superior State, 3-0. Dryden McKay, Alex, his 19th career shutout, moves to 7th all-time on the NCAA Division I shutout list. Julian Uppervinick, a goal and 2 assists for the Mavericks. Bowling Green beating Northern Michigan 5-1. As now we move over to the Saturday. If I can click the right thingamabob, there we are. Flip it on over. Long Island beating Army 3-2. Jordan DeChico, Alex, a goal and 2 assists and the game-winning goal for the Sharks. They get their 3rd win of the season. Notre Dame finishing off Minnesota with a weekend sweep, a 2-1 victory. Dylan St. Cyr, 25 saves for the Fighting Irish. Max Ellis and Solek Bakic each had the goals for the Irish. First time this season the Gophers get swept. Number 9 Michigan gets a sweep of their own with a goal and 2 assists from Owen Power. They win 5-0. Straussman, his 3rd shutout of the season, 30 saves for the Michigan captain. Wisconsin beating Arizona State 4-0. Linus Weisbach had 2 assists in that game, tied now with Cole Caulfield. He's after that game, win the scoring lead with 15 points. Number 12, Wisconsin, that is. And Penn State beating Michigan State by a score of 3-1, completing the weekend sweep in that one. Hockey East action. Jackson Stauber had 21 saves, picking up his 5th win of the year as Providence upends Maine. They get the weekend split. 3-2 win there for the Friars. UConn beating New Hampshire 8-3, and Boston College knocking off Merrimack with a 5-3 win. Western Michigan was able to complete the weekend sweep of the Huskies, and I can tell you right now, folks, nobody picked that. If you did, you're a liar. 3-1 win for the Broncos. Alex Landis, 28 saves. Ethan Frank, 2 goals for the Broncos. WCHA action. Number 8 Bowling Green completes their weekend sweep over Northern Michigan with a 6-2 win. Cameron Wright and Will Cullen each having a goal and 2 assists for the Falcons. Mavericks able to beat Lake Superior State 6-2. Sam Morton, 2 goals and an assist for the lovely Minnesota State Mavericks. Now we jump over to Sunday as we jump on over the 7 games we had. AIC beating Holy Cross by a score of 1-0. Jake Jakarski, his first collegiate win and shutout, making 21 saves. The goal scorer, Julius Janinen. Janinen? How do you think you say that? I think I said Janinen, right? Or is that Haninen? I'm going to go with Janinen on that one.
I'm going to say Janinen.
Janinen, first collegiate goal, was the only goal in that game as the Yellow Jackets beat the Crusaders. Wisconsin's able to complete the weekend sweep 5-2 win over Arizona State. Cole Caulfield, Pelton Bice, Dylan Holloway, and Linus Weisbeck all had 2-point games. Weisbeck and Caulfield each leading the team now with 17 points. Number 11, Quinnipiac beats Colgate 3-0. Ty Smilanek, 2 goals, including the game-winning goal for the Bobcats. They reach the 10-win mark on the year. They become the 5th team to do that in the NCAA. Clarkson beating St. Lawrence, able to get the weekend split. 2-1 win for the Golden Knights. Ethan Hayter, 4th win of the year, 30 saves in net. Hockey East, Boston gets their 2nd win. They finally get those games in against UMass. A 4-2 win, 33 saves for Drew Camesso, including 2 goals for Logan Cockrell. Boston College beating Merrimack 5-3. Mark McLaughlin, a goal and 2 assists. Spencer Knight picking up the win, making 30 saves in that one. NCHC action, Denver is able to get a win over North Dakota, 4-1 win. Ryan Barrow, a goal and 1 assist in that one. So good for, obviously, him to get on the score sheet because, Alex, he really needed it. And Boston, as I check today's games, because Omaha and Colorado College, they'll play later tonight, as well as North Dakota and Denver. They will play later as well. Boston University getting the weekend sweep over the Minutemen, a 4-3 victory in overtime. As I try to get the numbers here, let's see who scored the game-winning goal. Doesn't say here on College Hockey on this app, but it's okay. Boston Terriers, though, Alex, 3-1 now on the season. Of course, they had all those COVID issues, it seemed like, because they just seemed like they couldn't stay healthy. But the Boston Terriers, they're back on track. And that was your College Hockey Scoreboard, brought to you by Second String Leather Company, secondstringleather.com. Hashtag crafted from the crease. Was that too fast for you there?
Talking about college stuff. Shout out to former Michigan Wolverine Chad Henne.
Holy cats.
Anything is possible.
Okay, can I say this right now, Alex?
I don't know. Can you?
We're watching the game. Kelly and I are.
Okay.
And I want the Browns to win. I wanted Browns and Bills.
You wanted the Browns in the Super Bowl.
I wanted the Browns. I don't know about that. It'd be cool to see Tom Brady beat the Bills again, wouldn't it?
That was a poop joke.
Oh, okay.
Browns in the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah, I guess that finally having that'd be great. No, and I'm like, okay, cool, but they're coming back. And I tweeted out and I said, what's going to change the tide of this game is one big hit to Patrick Mahomes. And then he gets concussed. And I'm like, oh, my gosh. And then I realized after the hit happened, crap, their quarterback, their backup, is Chad Henne, which put me in a massive moral conundrum because
you want Chad Henne to win, but you also want the Browns to win.
I always want the Michigan guy to win. Patrick Lyon is not playing tonight? Oh, he must have had COVID. Must be a COVID protocol thing.
Maybe either that or he's just not playing.
Patrick Lyon not playing?
If he had COVID, he wouldn't be in the arena.
It could have been there's always some issues with that.
If he has COVID, he's not going to be in the arena. Period. No,
Anyways,
they would not let him in the door.
Chad Henne comes into the game, and I'm like, oh, man, because here's what's going to happen, though. One of two things will happen. Either he'll come back and beat the Browns, or he'll choke, and all of a sudden he looks like the GOAT. Where's the GOAT horns? And I don't want that for him. So when it's third and...
of all time?
What?
He's going to be wearing the greatest of all time
horns? No, the GOAT. No, not those horns. That's Tom Brady. Listen, Oh, what a save by Hellebuck. Sorry. ADD. Hellebuck made a great save.
Shut up.
And he comes into the game, and I'm just like, oh, no. But then it's 3rd and 15. If the Chiefs get a first down, it's over. And then Henne's like, I got to throw the ball. I got nowhere to throw it. So what does Chad Henne do? Run! He never ran at Michigan. And I mean, the only time he ever ran was when I played him in NCAA 06, and I ran the option because I was really good at the option. I had Mike Hart to pitch the ball to. That's the only time Chad Henne ever ran at the University of Michigan. And he just runs and puts the shoulder down. He's like, I don't care if I get concussed. I'm getting this first down. Came up half a yard short, but what do? A screen pass. Not to try to jam the ball up the middle. They run a screen pass. And my goodness, they would do it. And I'm like, I can get behind this. But now they play the Bills. If Mahomes comes back next week, I'll want the Bills to win. If Henne plays, I'm going to have to want the Chiefs to win, which will mean Mahomes will be in the Super Bowl.
Or, plot twist, Patrick Mahomes out for the rest of the season and playoffs. And then
I'll be...
Chad Henne wins the Super Bowl.
Don't have Chad Henne versus Tom Brady for the love of God.
Chad Henne versus Tom Brady.
Well, because I told Kelly this, because remember,
Dad's going to have an aneurysm.
Chad Henne was the starting quarterback for a couple years with Miami. So
Yeah.
twice a year, I had to see Tom Brady versus Chad Henne. I knew Brady was going to win, but it still kind of hurt to see Chad Henne lose. Now I don't know what I would want if it was Henne versus Brady in the Super Bowl.
I'd want Henne to win.
Well,
You want to know why? Because I
you're-
don't want Tom Brady to win.
you're going to get Tampa Bay all the way to the Super Bowl where they're hosting the Super Bowl in Tampa Bay this year. Be the first team to ever do it, and he's going to lose.
Lose. Good day, sir.
That would be a really rough day for me. Like
It'd be fine.
I'll just be sad eating food.
Yeah.
Like
It's
I'll
all
just
right.
shoveling
We'll have to
mozzarella
see-
sticks.
You know what? We'll have to see if Dad wants to do anything for that.
I hope so.
Otherwise, we'll just come over here. Me and
And
Katie.
eat just garbage food.
Eat garbage food, drink beer, watch football.
Watch Chad Henne versus Tom Brady and just have me cry.
And don't forget, we also got to do our due diligence, folks.
our prop bets.
We got to do the prop bets.
You gonna pay? Did you pay last year? Who
Yeah.
won last year?
I don't know.
Did Dad win again last year?
I
Dad,
don't know.
because we've done only 2 years. But if Dad's out of it, perfect. I have a chance this year because Dad, I think, won the last 2 years.
Maybe Kelly won. I don't know.
Kelly.
No, we're not doing this.
Okay, well, I have questions. Well, if she just jumped on the chat, this would be easier. You know, you could have just turned me down. Holy cow, we don't need to be that loud. Jeez.
Well, I'm just saying. I'd want to yell in our
Well,
our
just-
fans' ears.
That's why you take the mic away and you turn it off, and then you scream.
Well, you could still hear me through my mic, or they
Not
could
true.
still hear.
I sat when we were over on the other side of this room.
Uh-huh.
I could hear my car alarm going. I was talking with Mike Stubbs at London Knights. I could hear my car alarm going off, and I thought it was getting stolen, but nobody could hear it on the broadcast.
Yeah, okay.
It didn't get stolen, obviously.
Whatever
but-
you say. But after the college hockey scoreboard, we have nothing but the news.
Well, okay.
Notes.
Let's do Let's wanted to quickly do Voracek.
Yes, Voracek. While you start talking, I'm gonna look something up about that.
Oh, because you're trying to see if he actually got, because there was a discussion. So, long story short, Mike Cybulski, who is from New York, by the way, which yes is very important for all this because New York and Philadelphia, or New York and Pennsylvania for that matter, they just don't get along too well. Alex, Eagles and Giants, Rangers and Flyers, Yankees and I guess not really Yankees and Phillies, but I'm trying to think of another sport here. I guess the Knicks and Sixers used to hate each other. I mean, maybe back in the 70s and 80s when Dr. J was there with the Sixers. Anyways. They don't get along. So Cybulski comes down and works for Philadelphia. And apparently, and I didn't really know this because back in 2016, I was not the biggest, I didn't follow hockey. I watched it, analyzed it, played it, but I'm not in the same capacity I am now. Mike Cybulski used to tear, apparently, Jakub Voracek a new one every time he played bad or every time the team was doing bad. And this was when the Flyers were bad. So when Mike Cybulski got the first opportunity to talk to Travis Konechny and Jakub Voracek after the Flyers win on Saturday night, Jakub Voracek decides to let him know. We can't play the audio. I mean, we could because it's on Twitter, but we can't play it because there's a few words on there that I don't have a bleep button for.
Cussing.
Long story short, called him a weasel because no matter what he says, he's going to write something crappy about him. Paraphrasing, of course. And I will say this. This is coming from a credentialed journalist, a credentialed writer, a credentialed guy that's been in these press conferences before, both in the room and on the Zoom calls. This is where, and I get it, there's the player side. Everyone's like, good for Voracek, calling him out. And remember, there was the whole thing with Austin Matthews and Steve Simmons last year in the playoffs.
Right.
So, and there's like, oh man, good on him. Of course, when Austin Matthews did it, the Leafs had just lost to Columbus in that game. At least the Flyers won. So Voracek, I think, was just mad to hear this man speak. So now there's a lot of journalists out there saying, man, why do you have to bring that out in the open? Why do you have to do that? Listen, player, journalist, me, I've done both. I've been on both sides of the mic, Alex. Okay?
Yes, Tyler.
Would I have gone that far with Voracek? Maybe not. But I get where Voracek's coming from, okay? When I write something and it's criticizing anyone in any way, shape, or form, you got to be ready for consequences. No one should be, I don't think anyone should be feeling for Mike Cybulski, okay? No one should be like, oh man, what a tough, because there are a couple people like, oh, that was like 4 years ago or 5 years ago. He's been doing it, there's been multiple occurrences. There is no good reason that Cybulski should be like, oh man, what did I do wrong here? You wrote something bad and the guy's calling you out on it.
Well, also too, it's the one thing you have to take into.
Wasn't done.
Well, I'm just saying too, like you have
Okay.
to understand too. Jakub Voracek is the guy that he goes on Twitter. He sees someone mentioning him on Twitter, and he says, quote, letter R, letter U, pooping me. Question mark, exclamation point.
So, I mean, in Voracek's very outspoken, and it's, you know what? There are some guys, but hey, Alex, isn't that what we want? We want characters in the game. We don't want robots, right?
Precisely.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's one thing we complain about is when we have guys on the show, and I love Noah Dobson. He's a great player, but dang, that interview was tough to do a couple years back because he did the hockey player routine.
You know what I mean?
No, I'm just glad to be on the Subway Series team, and Team Canada, that'd be great. Representing your country. I'm like, come on. Just give it. That's why the Stuart. Anyways, I'm not going to go down that tangent. We don't have enough time for tangerines and tangelos. So that's why if I write something, like when I literally called out Dan Cole in front of a room of people saying his power play was bad, I was ready for that answer, and I took it. And the next day I saw him, and we went about our business because I understood what I was doing, and I wrote about it in my hockey writers. Hey, Michigan State's power play failed in the third period. Yeah, was I ready for a backlash? Of course, because that's consequences. So I don't think anyone should be mad at Voracek for what he said. Dropping the F-bomb may have been a little tough, but hey, that's how it works with some hockey players. Mike Shaleski, I hate to use the word had it coming, but guess what? Voracek saw his opportunity, didn't like the guy, said his piece, there it is. No one should be feeling for Shaleski. I get why people are mad at Voracek, but when you call someone out, when you write saying that someone is losing because of their fault, and when you write something that's literally tweeted something that says they should trade Voracek for Katie Smith, the woman who's saying God bless America in the 70s, who's been dead for 10 years, 15 years, that's what I'm saying. If you know what you're if you're gonna do that, be ready for a backlash.
Just another side note, as someone who has also been on the mic and also done interviews and.
You're welcome.
Jackwagon. Oh, you're welcome.
Hey,
whatever. Shut up.
I gave you lacrosse, man. That was fun.
You did not give me that job. You asked me, and I did it out of charity. And then I made sure, hey, Ryan, you're paying or Devin, you're paying me for this, right?
Well, because you also did camera, too. That's why.
Well, I wasn't going to.
Anywho.
God, where was I going with this? Oh, yeah, some athletes just don't like talking to the media. That's just how it is. Some athletes, coaches, let's just make sure that we all are aware that John Tortorella is a human being.
Yeah.
And he exists, and he hates talking to the media. There is literally hour-long compilations of just John Tortorella, quote-unquote, abusing the media. Just because he doesn't want to talk to him, doesn't want to give him straight answers. Chris Pronger, before he had to end up retiring, he didn't like talking to media.
No. And now he's part of management, so he kind of has to. But
now he has to, but when he was the player, he literally wanted to say nothing. I'm just saying, there's the whole point of players got to, you're supposed to be made accessible to the team, and yeah, you're supposed to be made accessible, and just because you're there doesn't mean that you have to give them all the answers you want to. Yeah. It's the job of the media to get the answers that they want so they can write a story and, make things entertaining. And for some players, yeah, they want to, feed into that beast, and, they want to be, the personality. And obviously when you're like a captain or something like that, you have to talk. It's part of your job. It's what you have to do is you have to, be a face for the team and the organization. But sometimes you just don't want to. And, this is probably one of those situations, like you said, where Voracek has had people criticizing him for however long, and he decided to take a shot, and he did.
I mean, because let's be honest, when you are a star in this league, when you're a superstar.
I wouldn't say Voracek's a superstar. He's a good player.
Really good player. When you're a star in this league, we'll go with star. You're going to get criticized.
A good player.
Shoot.
Good pro.
I'm trying to think. When Alex Steen was on those Leafs teams, poor guy, right? Because he would
lose, Steen, lose.
Gosh, that's a wrestling joke for all of you non-wrestling fans out there. But I get it. It's a thing. It happens, and is it happen more frequently? Yes. Because why? Because players are starting to realize. Now I don't know if it's and people are like, oh, but if he was in the room, he wouldn't have said that. Not necessarily true. You ever heard of a guy by the name of John Tortorella and John Ben Brooks?
What did I just say?
Like I said, that's what I'm saying. No, it's a thing that's going to continue. I don't say we're going to see more of it, but play. I don't say is the word brave a good use for is the word brave a good one for this?
I don't think it's bravery.
Like they're more willing. They're going to be more. They're becoming more willing to let people know.
Media people are going to have to be more prepared.
Yeah,
they're going to have to be more prepared for athletes that don't want to talk, don't want to do anything. Like, what's his name? I'm going to have to look his name up. He played football for the Seahawks and the Raiders.
Marshawn Lynch?
Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah. Who just did Peyton's place, by the way. Speaking of Hennessy, no.
Yeah, literally, he does
here so I don't get fined.
He does interviews where I'm here so I don't have to be fined. Or they ask him a question, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here. Doesn't want to talk to. And you know what? That should be okay. If anything, from then on, press people, if you don't want those answers, don't talk to him. Talk to somebody else in the room that actually wants to, be talked to. Because I'm sure that, there's a Flyers player that would like to, get a little bit more press or, feel good about hey, I got to talk to the media today, honey. Oh, that's great.
Sure, there's a reason why I think if we ever write anything about Dartmouth when they come back next season, we're going to be in trouble.
Do you think PK Subban would be half the a-hole that he is now if he didn't get all the media and press coverage?
I think it's because he's such a polarizing character.
He's a personality, but think about it. If you didn't feed into that beast, like PK Subban, Brad Marchand, Sean Avery, if you going back, like those kind of personalities, if you didn't feed into that and you didn't give them that media fire, do you think they'd still be the same? No. Of course they wouldn't be. I mean, they'd still, have their on-ice personalities, but nobody would be like, oh, he's really, bombastic and he's got a real big mouth, you know what I'm saying? No, because nobody would cover them.
Exactly.
So I think, if anything, you're going to see a lot more athletes and coaches, probably not management.
Well, let's say hockey players. I think baseball and football, you've seen a lot more of it in other sports. Baseball, football, basketball. They've been willing to let people know.
People saying,
they're willing to call out media and say how they really feel. Like, because hockey players have had that literally that mantra of being robots, not saying much, giving the bland answers, not giving anything to write about. You're gonna see it more in hockey, I think.
Yeah, hockey's has a reputation of being the most exciting, boring sport in the world.
Yes, exciting on the ice, boring off the ice. Well, pardon me, with the cameras on. Except unless you're in an Uber car and you're in the Ottawa Senators.
Or a taxi.
Bobby Ryan, hey buddy.
Hey Matt Duchesne, how you doing?
Was Duchesne in that one?
I think so.
He was one of them. I thought
it was a different scenario where Duchesne said something. No, that was Colorado. When he was...
Oh, Duchesne in Colorado. That's a whole... You want to talk about a storybook there.
Yeah.
That's a story. Let's get into some news and notes, Alex.
Yes.
I got rid of one because Semyon Varlamov is okay.
News.
He got injured in the warm-up on Saturday, forcing poor Igor Sorokin to start, or Ilya Sorokin to start. Didn't play that well. I don't blame him. That's his first NHL game he didn't even expect to play, so I'm not going to put that on. But apparently Varlamov's okay, so good for him. Wasn't a good weekend for Sorokin, Shesterkin, and
the Flurkin.
There was one more goaltender that didn't have a good start. That was a prospect.
Turkin.
If it comes up, I'll remember it. But anyways, rough weekend for the goaltenders from Russia.
Right.
Bobrovsky, though, is supposed to be back Tuesday. I know there was issues getting him over there. Chris Greider played really good last night for the Panthers and their win, so good for him.
Canucks JT Miller returned to practice, missed time due to COVID-19.
That's what I should have asked. Dang, if we had James for an hour, first of all, we would still not have gotten to this question probably, because I had so many questions like coming in as we were talking. That's a good interview right there, folks. Like for all you kids out there, I say all you kids like I'm Don Cherry. For all you kids out there who got the racist comment if you want to somewhere. Holy cripes, what the heck? Okay, I was talking about the Don Cherry that not everyone hated, like the classic Don. Oh, who am I kidding? Okay,
got me.
You good, bud? You're a little red in the face there. You okay? Maybe you should breathe or something.
Oh God, that's what air tastes like. Jeez.
Anyways, And when you interview people, that's a good interview. Is when you because we have lists of questions. That's how we're communicating back and forth here on the Google Drive. So we have like a base. I think we may have gotten to 2 of them with him. 2 of the ones that we wrote, because the rest just came out. Like that's a good interview. Right. So for all of you people that want to have a podcast eventually or just want to be in good media, the best interviews are ones where you have a plan, but you just kind of let it flow.
Or if you just want to talk to people. If there's a girl you like or a guy you like.
Do you walk into a date with a list of questions?
Sometimes.
I
don't usually pull the paper out, though. First, I ask them, hey, is it okay if we have a conversation?
Put the paper down. All right, so what are your likes and dislikes about the weather? Okay, cool. What are you?
Next question. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly because my brother wrote it. It says finna smash.
Is that your name or is that your middle name or
Hulu and do the do? Netflix and
chill. Is that a thing? No. Anyway, sorry. Back to JT Miller. This is it's important because people were criticizing the offense.
Disney Plus and toe curling's a must.
You need to get off Pinterest, man.
Pinterest?
I don't know what you go on there for. I don't know. What's
interior design?
Get off TikTok. There you go.
Hey, you leave TikTok alone.
I will never.
But no.
Anyways,
honestly,
because everyone's given the offense because Pedersen's not playing well. And Brock Besser scored goals in the first game, but he hasn't done squat since. What's going on?
It's the first weekend. Chill out.
Right. But when you get shut up by your former goaltender, who you could have probably afforded.
That's embarrassing.
That's why I think everyone got mad. And
that's not the player's fault though.
That would be what would be better, Alex? Ranking how the teams are going to finish, or who has the more insufferable fan base on social media?
Yes,
both. Because I'll be honest. I mean, maybe
because here's the thing.
Because I think Toronto's first, 100%. Toronto then Edmonton.
I think what's
after that.
I think what's going to happen. If we're just sticking with the North, I think it's going to be one of those situations where teams' fan bases are just going to become like the Toronto Maple Leafs fan base on the pure basis that
Edmonton.
No.
Edmonton is Toronto West, and no one's going to want to admit it over there. But that's the truth.
No. What's going to happen is every fan base is going to turn into the Toronto Maple Leafs fan base because just like the Toronto Maple Leafs, the true fans are not in the building, and therefore the only way they feel like their voice can be heard is on social media.
That's true.
That was a suit joke.
Yep. By the way, Islanders won against the Boston Bruins. 1-0. J.G. Pajot batting it out of the air like he's a baseball player. Maybe the Mets need a cleanup hitter next season.
There's a lot of people batting stuff out of the air. Crosby, Stutzle.
It's Stutzle. At least no one's called him Strudel yet.
Strudel. Strudel. Funny.
You know what's the worst part of going to the frozen food section every single time I go to Meijer now? And not finding toasted strudel on sale. You know how hard
Toaster
strudel? Dude, I have a marketing plan.
I already said it, so it's mine. I'm the marketing guy.
Yes, but who do you want? We can't do it. It's got to be
Buzz
Ego.
off.
All right, fine. Call Ego. Ego Canada. The Ego Canada thing. Call Ego. We have a plan. Tim, toaster strudel strutzel. Oh, God, that's going to be a little tough, actually. We're going to have to figure that out. We'll come up with the slogan later.
Why don't I just call up Tim Hortons? It'll be a seasonal thing.
A Stutzel strudel? Yeah, okay. Well, yeah.
A Timmy Stutzel.
No, it'd be a Timmy strudel.
A Timmy Stutzel.
Timmy Stutzel strudel.
Oh, my goodness. You're confusing me.
You're confusing me.
I'm going to go over the injuries, and then we're going to talk about stuff.
We're going to talk about stuff?
Sean Couturier is out for 2 weeks with a rib injury. Nick Robertson.
I was gonna look up the actual name of the injury because they tweeted it out, but I can't even pronounce it.
Fair enough. Nick Robertson of the Toronto Maple Leafs hurts his knee in the first period against Ottawa on Saturday, hit by Drake Batherson. It's 4 weeks MRI today. Today.
It was today. That's why they determined the 4 weeks.
Oliver Ekman-Larsson is out with a lower body injury, which is day to day.
Let me just make sure.
He was injured in Saturday's game against San Jose, not playing against Vegas. Mike Smith is placed on LTIR, undisclosed injury.
And they're saying about a month on Ekman Larson, according to literally everything.
Okay, so about a month on him.
Who the heck texted me?
Phenomenal. Troy Grosnick was claimed after being waived by L.A. Jason Spezza and Aaron Dell were put on waivers by the Leafs. Dell was claimed by the Oilers, and Spezza has cleared, so he's going to be on the.
And he's playing tonight,
so he is playing tonight. So he's going to be part of those Black Aces for them. Anton.
He's playing. He's not a part of the Black. He's not. You mean taxi squad? It's not the Black Aces this year. It's the taxi squad.
Sure, whatever you want to call it.
Pierre Engvall got sent down to the Marlies, then got 4 hours later called back up to the taxi squad, and I don't know if he's going to play or not. Literally this year, guys. I'm really good at calling out waivers.
I hope you're not paying rent because you're going to be on the road a lot.
Anton Forsberg claimed by Winnipeg, waived by Carolina, because I don't know if there's something wrong with Brossoit. Maybe they just want that third string goaltender.
I think so.
But here's the thing about the taxi squad stuff, guys. I could try to figure it out for you, but literally until I see the name on the lineup sheet or in the morning skate line rushes, I'm not going to believe you're playing, unless you're Matthews and Marner Crosby. If you're Pierre Engvall or Mikko Lehtinen or Nick Robertson's case, before Saturday, I'm not going to look at this tax squad. I'm like, all right, this guy got sent here, this guy got sent here, this guy got sent here, because the TSN transaction page was absolutely ridiculous. It literally, Alex, I may as well have been trying to study calculus, okay? It was rough. So I just said, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to go full analytics against it, but I'm just going to say this. If you're not in the morning skate, I won't believe you're actually on the team. If that makes sense.
I'm just going to see who's on the ice when the game starts.
When the puck drops. That's
if you're on the ice or on the bench.
Okay, I was about to say, because there's only 6 players on the ice when the game starts.
Thanks, Uncle Max. Yeah, so local news, Jimmy Howard has decided to retire. What?
It's not official.
Okay.
He's going to. According to literally every report.
Who is he playing for?
Apparently, Ken Holland reached out to him. And that's when the news came out that Jimmy Howard wants to retire.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want to go to Alberta. It's cold and dry, and
you don't have a defense, and
West.
My groin is already in shambles.
I don't want to practice with Zach Cassian.
Zach Cassian looks like the kind of guy that would shoot at your head in practice.
His head scares me.
His head? I thought it was his face.
Who's the goalie that got injured in warm-ups because he took one to the neck?
Varlamov. But he's okay, though. It was only a stinger, but he just couldn't play that night. And it's so weird because, like I said, there's going to be so many transactions and movements. Like, my phone every day just blows up with, this guy went up, this guy went down, this guy's on tax squad, this guy's off tax squad, this guy's going to go tax squad, but he's going to go to the minors, he's going to go back to tax squad, all within 3-hour span. It just doesn't make sense. But Jimmy Howard, though, before we get into the end of our last segment of the show, Jimmy Howard, after 14 seasons, is planning to retire. Now, like I said, nothing's been official yet, right? I'm just gonna look this up here.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Howard to retire, likely to retire. Okay, because Frege was the first one to report.
Well, the Detroit News is the one that's the closest one. This was yesterday at 8:13 a.m.
Yes, and Frege will
announce his retirement from the NHL in the coming days. Sportsnet, quoting Sportsnet.
We'll probably have one of those, phones like iPhone notebooks that they screenshot and post to social media. You see that every so often. So I get it. It sucks because, we watched Jimmy Howard grow up almost. He came over from Maine, had one of the best goals against average in the history of college hockey at Maine, by the way. Lost in the 04 national championship to Adam Burkle and Denver. But we saw him from day one in Grand Rapids. 2005.
Yep.
Post-lockout, he was their goaltender, and we saw him, all of his trial and tribulations trying to get to the NHL, and then he got his chance, and we saw him earn his 6-year contract, and then watched it go right out the door right after. Because, boy.
Yeah.
And I get it. People are like, oh, thank God, this guy sucks. Listen, guys.
Well, because, was that at the time where it was like Jimmy Howard and Joey Mack?
No,
Joey Mack left. Joey Mack was in the Islanders at that point?
So it went out of the
Bridgeport, yeah.
Out of the lockout, it was McDonald and Howard. Howard went to Boston, then to the Islanders. No, McDonald went to the Islanders and the Bruins and Islanders. Holy cow. Howard stayed. They got like Adam Burkle, a couple other guys.
Then Peter Mrazek.
McDonald came back, and that's when Mrazek came. That's when McDonald ended up, I think, just going overseas to play. And that's when Mrazek came in. But by that point, of course, that was when Howard was already up in Detroit.
Right.
So it actually may have been McDonald and Mrazek for a minute.
No,
it was Mrazek and McCollum.
It was Mrazek and McCollum and McDonald and Howard.
Yep.
Which for Griffins fans, nice.
Literally, that was our. Well, yeah. Well, it was always kind of cool to see.
Oh, well, no.
There was Conklin.
There was Conklin and Howard because it was Conklin and Osgood for a hot second.
Yep, that was the only. And then of course we saw Joey Mack play, but Howard though, it's like it sucks. Like, I remember when he was good, and that's almost a decade ago, Alex. That's the tough part. Because as soon as Mrazek took over, Howard just his confidence went away, and so did his groin. But
it's not. It's just one of those things where you saw it deteriorate so fast.
Because he went from that 6-year deal
and then it became a trend of, well, he's just bad.
Yeah.
Like Mark Stahl. Mark Stahl used to be a pretty decent hockey player. He used to be someone that you're like,
he got brought up to the NHL.
You would trade for him if like you were doing like a GM mode and like someone offered you to trade for Mark Stahl. Yeah, sure, I'll take him.
In NHL 12.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. At one point,
back when Gary Thorne was calling the game.
At one point, Jimmy Howard was a top goaltender in the NHL.
Yep.
And he earned his money and he made his money, and then he just dropped off the face of the earth. I mean, it's just how it was for him, and you play 14 years. I mean, doesn't he have a Stanley Cup to his name?
Technically, because he was on the roster for a few games, the 07-08 team. By the way, he's Jimmy Howard III, according to his bio.
Huh.
James Russell. His name is James Russell.
Russell?
James Russell Howard III. No, how do you not call him Terrier? But,
because he didn't play for Boston.
Listen, okay, well, I think, what? But
there you go.
That's why I thought James Russell Terrier. Well, that's why I always thought they should call him Jack Parker, the famed Boston Terriers coach. I'm like, is his name not Jack Russell now at this point?
I don't know.
Jack Russell Terrier. So I guess before we move on from Jimmy Howard, I know mine, but Alex, what was your Jimmy Howard moment?
My Jimmy Howard moment?
Yes, this is coming from Leafs fans, but don't forget, folks, we live here in Michigan. Like I said, we saw
Leafs
him in Grand Rapids.
I'm a guy that likes the Leafs. I am not a Leafs fan.
You're not a Leafs fan? You're not a Leafs?
That's what I said, Leafs.
Well, don't be so aloof and answer the question.
I said Leafs. I would have to say my Jimmy Howard moment was when he was down in Grand Rapids. We were playing Milwaukee. And
one of the 200 times that season, probably.
Yeah, playing Milwaukee. And
was this the Baby Blue Admirals at this point? Or was this still their Admiral logo?
This was Baby Blue Admirals at this point, I believe.
Okay, they just changed over.
Yeah, I think so, because I was like, they kind of look weird.
Because they have the dead Admiral.
Yeah. Anywho.
The Dadmiral.
The Dadmiral.
The Dadmiral.
But no, so it was about, maybe 6 minutes left in the third period. Jimmy Howard had a shutout going. And he had a lot of shots on net. And once it was this weird power play, pass across the point shot, and it was just the feeling of it went in. They were about to call it off because there was goalie interference, and then they reversed the no goal call, called it a goal, and I think the Red Wings ended up winning 3-1 that game.
But he didn't get the shutout.
I mean, other than that, that was really the most distinct moment, I would say. Otherwise, it would just be Jimmy Howard playing for Grand Rapids. Purely that. That would be my Jimmy Howard moments, is him playing for Grand Rapids.
I will say
because he was growing up as a Griffins fan, after Joey Mack, Like he was.
We had expectations.
He was the goalie for the longest time. He really was. I mean, there was, you'd have the backup goalie like switch every other game. It kind of seemed like, and then McCollum became a constant. But
the reason why McCollum has the most wins in team history is because he played there for 6 years.
Right, but I mean, he was the starting goalie for the longest time before Mrazek got there. So, yeah, I mean, other than that, I would say maybe watching him in warm-ups and just his intense, like, Jimmy Howard stare where he's like,
He was, I don't want to say he was full-scale Jeff Lurg, but in terms of focus, but he was at that point. Well, here's
No, that'd be the Jimmy Howard moment, is watching him in warm-ups just, like, doing his little goalie fidget where he's like, blocker, glove, blocker, glove, blocker. Or he just, like, where the goalie's just, like take, like, the 2-inch,
They try to visualize the shot and whatnot. Yeah, I know. Well, I'm trying to think. Well, my thing with Jimmy Howard was a tale of two cities. It was, okay.
Oh, you're going to get poetic with this. I should fall asleep.
No, not poetic. Well, like, watching him rise to, because that was his first starts in the 07-08 season. Once he got to that point, it's like, okay, now there's expectations. Because after that point, it's like, all right, can Jimmy get better? And after he came back after that, it seemed like he stunk, and I criticized him more than anything. And it seemed like I've been doing it ever since. But the moment for me that I think I'll always remember, because people probably think, oh, it's going to be when he went after Crosby at the end of the game against Pittsburgh. I think it was his rookie season or the year after.
Maybe it was the year after.
But the year he became full-time, the year after, whatever, when, after the game, as the game's over, Wings win, and he goes after Crosby, and there was that great visual of him going after Crosby. Because at that point, Crosby was enemy number one in Detroit because they were just, recently had the 2 back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals appearances. But for me, it was the 2011 playoffs. It was round 1 against Phoenix at the time, excuse me. Not the year they went to 7, the year they swept them. Jimmy Howard gets his bucket knocked off. And everyone at the Joe is screaming, play should be dead, blow the whistle. Jimmy Howard's going to get hurt. Jimmy Howard sticks in there and does like a butterfly slide, half split save, and the crowd goes bonkers. Because why? Because their guy just went out with who needs a mask? Terry Sawchuk style, getting out there, we're doing the splits, making a big save.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool moment, yeah.
I remember the one time my helmet got knocked off after a play. I'm holding the puck.
You're not Jimmy Howard, shut up.
I got called.
Stop relating to your own story.
I got called. I'm sorry. The goaltender looks like a badass, and I can say that because I don't say the Eschole. I can. Yeah. Anyways, goaltenders that make saves without masks look badass. Okay, it's not safe by any stretch of the imagination anymore, but it still looks really cool. It's an awesome visual. I've done it once. I never want to do it again because I'll be honest with you, slightly scary because you almost feel as a goaltender, you feel naked without a mask when someone's shooting at you.
Are the Toronto Raptors actually called the Tangerine Raptors?
It's the joke because they're in Tampa.
Huh. Is that like an actual joke or? Because like that was put on TSN. Like they listed it as Tangerine Raptors versus Heat.
It's a Tangerine Raptors basketball because there's the company Tangerine. I don't know.
Sorry, I saw that on the TV.
Alex got sidetracked there.
I got very confused.
Why is Garth Brooks trending?
I don't know.
Oh, okay, whatever.
Oh, a tweet's going to be good when it starts with, "This is not a political statement."
Well, apparently Garth Brooks is playing at the presidential inauguration on Wednesday. Whatever. Okay, cool.
All right.
I'll be there. I'll have to report on it because that's literally while I'm at the station. So I'm going to get a bunch of happy phone calls on Wednesday. Boy, that's
didn't you tell me that someone already got caught with fake inauguration credentials in 500 rounds of ammunition?
Yeah, there was that. Was that Saturday or something like that? Yeah,
we love it. We love this.
Gotta love it, man. It's gonna be great.
Back to hockey. So Jimmy Howard, congrats on a career.
He was getting Calder votes that first year, Alex. People forget that.
He was. No, he used to be a good goalie. That's not. It's just the latter half was. He only lost it to Tyler Myers. Now there's a battle. Who won? Who was end up having a better career, Myers or? I don't.
I'll say Myers because Myers
Howard?
actually got to the conference finals with Winnipeg. Holy cow! Oh, that's a ball hitting the door.
Jeez Louise!
You scare me, woman!
Piss out of me.
Well, she's probably throwing that yarn ball. When I was playing hockey with Wixie the other day, that was cool.
Yeah. Games to watch this week.
Yes.
Carolina versus Nashville tomorrow, the 19th of January,
That's going to be
2021.
Nashville looks promising. They beat Columbus the other night.
Nope.
Nope. Okay. So
Nope.
it's one of
Don't
those
get
things.
your hopes up,
It's one of those
kids.
things where it's like,
Don't get your hopes up,
are the
kids.
Senators good? Are the Predators good? Are the Wings good? No, they're not. Is Columbus
It's
bad?
the first week. Chill out.
Nope. Can't chill out. Got to overreact to everything.
No, Carolina's going to win that one. No
Okay.
big deal.
Well, yes, because you know what? I'm going to get Peyton on the phone.
Fine.
I'm going to call him. He's going to be like, what do you want? I'm like, Alex just said Carolina's going to beat Nashville handily tomorrow. You know what he's going to say?
I didn't say handedly. I said they're going to win. It could be a 3-2 game, but they're going to
I
win.
just hope we don't call him when he's on the toilet. That'd be awkward, wouldn't it?
That would be awkward.
Be very awkward.
I mean,
You going to move on? or-
his performance on the toilet would probably be the same as Nashville's performance on the ice.
Wow. They literally won the other night. Goaltending will be a problem with for Nashville. But some people still question Carolina's goaltending. I'm like, I get it. I can see why. They did lose to Detroit the other night. But
Yeah, their goaltending's a problem when James Reimer's in the net.
don't you dare
I just did.
get me started. You want to have problems? That's how you got problems.
James backup,
Well, yes, he's supposed to be the backup goaltender. Anyways, next matchup.
the 2B. Toronto versus Edmonton, Wednesday/Friday.
That's
That's probably going to be a
That's gonna be
split.
a-
That's going to be a split game.
if you're on Twitter, don't get on it on Wednesday or
That's gonna
Saturday.
be a yeah.
Is it Wednesday and Friday or Wednesday, Friday?
Wednesday and Friday.
Or actually, Leafs second Saturday of the year. They're not playing on a Saturday. Ludicrous. I don't care if it's a different schedule.
Luda.
No, not that Luda. But yeah, move the schedule around. Move schedule. Get out the way. Get out the way schedule. No, nothing.
Luda.
Anyways, but I like that matchup because they're two teams that are supposed to be good, but have underperformed. Now, yes, the Oilers made the playoffs last year. I get it, but they lost to Chicago. Leafs made the playoffs last year. They lost to Columbus. I get it. Two teams with an extraordinary amount of
Is
expectations.
Jake Muzzin still a Leaf?
Yes. Yeah. He's still one. Yeah.
Muzzin and Cassian are going to fight.
I don't think Muzzin will fight.
They'll
I-
tussle.
Simmons.
They'll tussle.
I think Simmons in one of those games will fight.
Oh, Simmons will go after somebody. He'll find someone.
Hey, it worked. Hey, fighting works. It worked against Montreal. Leafs are on the power play, and they're battling a lot of sticks going on. Their power play's looking good right now. They're
Who?
getting a lot of shots. Leafs are getting chances.
Are the Leafs power play good or is the Jets penalty kill bad? This is the question on the Keel Show.
Willie, Spezza, Tavares. Is that Lettinen at the point?
I don't know.
I don't remember any of the numbers now. It's the problem.
Hyman,
No, well, Hyman's down in front. I'm talking about who's running the point.
Nylander, and whoever the other guys.
Yeah, okay.
Uh,
Continue on.
Philly versus Boston. This is going to be a preview of the outdoor game Thursday and Saturday.
It is holy cow, Lettinen's on the power play. Cool. Anyway, sorry.
Somebody must be hurt.
Hey, Katie. Does Katie know we're on the show?
She should.
Yeah, text her if you need to.
I will. No, so Philly, Boston, Thursday and Saturday. That's going to be something fun to watch.
So ready for this? I saw this stat after the game, and Tavares just scored. Leafs 1-0. Holy, they're outshooting him 22-10. Holy cow! But I saw this tweet. It's from World Hockey Report and a couple other guys. The Bruins, Alex, have not scored an even strength goal yet this season. I know it's only a few games in.
Leafs just scored.
Yes, Tavares. As I said, Tavares scored. But the thing is this. The stat is this. The only other team, Alex, in the National Hockey League that has not scored a even strength goal yet in this season is the Dallas Stars,
Because they haven't played.
who haven't even played a game.
Thank you, Tyler.
So I take my mic away for everybody. No, I wasn't yelling at you, hon. I'm sorry. That's why I take my mic away, so people can hear me yell. See, if we had, the boom mics or whatever, I could just pull away from it.
Sure.
But then we'd have, arms in front of our face, and people have to see our pretty faces.
You have an ugly mug.
You're the one that has to wear a toque every week.
Because it's freezing in here.
It's warmish.
It's not
People
warm.
are falling everywhere. Sticks are breaking. It's a yard sale here in Toronto. What is Nick Ehlers doing to go after Jake Muzzin?
Dude, I don't know.
I just saw sticks flying.
Maybe he's
people.
constipated.
It really looked like a Bush League hockey game. That's what it looked like. But I mean, Philly, Carter Hart's going to be there. I think that team will finish up there towards the division. That could be, unless Boston can't figure it out.
No, that'd be a good game.
If Boston can figure it out, like I said, I'll still think they'll win the division. It's early on. But that could be a telltale sign of the 1-2 in that East Division. The Mass Mutual East Division, by the way.
Maybe.
Tampa
versus Columbus Thursday and Saturday as well.
The irresistible force made the immovable object again.
The Bolts versus the Blue Jackets.
A matchup that I thought was going to go a lot closer last year and a lot different the way it ended up playing out. But Corpusal looked really good today. The Wings in that game today. This is why I was fortunate enough because it was at noon. I was able to watch it and listen to it while I was at work today. The Wings looked good, and Corpusal had to make a few big saves. He looks on par. He looks like he's ready. He looked like he's in season form, not having to figure out how to make a save like some other goaltenders do at the beginning of the season. I like where the Blue Jackets are at. They can get the timely scoring still. Oliver Bjorkstrand's coming along. Max Domi hasn't done a whole lot yet from what I've seen, but I still like the matchup. And like I said, Tampa will win the division, but they're not going to be as dominant.
Yeah,
that's how I say.
One thing I gotta say about Max Domi and the whole thing is that you can't expect him to be your star player. You can't. He is he was a star in junior, but he's not. He's a Sam Gagner. He'll be effective on the offensive end, but he also can give you a little bit extra. But he's not going to be your star player. That's right. I mean, he's top two lines talent, I would say. Depending on the squad. For him, probably second line Columbus.
The squad.
But yeah, just don't expect too much from him. Okay,
has Pierre-Luc Dubois been traded yet?
No.
Scores a goal today.
Yeah, that was freaking hilarious. The TSN broadcasters being like, or no, that was NBC at that point. Oh, this is why the Columbus Blue Jackets love having him on their team. As they showed the highlight of Pierre-Luc Dubois scoring a goal, and I'm just sitting here like, yeah, but when is he getting traded?
Yeah, I mean
he wants out. Him and Torts, I don't have the best relationship,
and I get that because that is how it works. That's how I can
understand why he doesn't like Tortorella. He's a polarizing figure. Same reason why I can see why people like/dislike PK Subban.
Yeah, but the thing is that with Pierre-Luc Dubois, for him, if he wants to get traded, if he wants to go to a team that's good or a team that wants him around, he has to play well.
Well, it's the same reason why Patrick Laine is doing so hot. I mean, he wants to prove that he's worth the money that he potentially can get from someone else.
Right, because if you slack off, no one's going to want you. That's why do you think the year that Jarmo Kekalainen kept Bobrovsky, he kept Duchesne, he kept Artemi, or pardon me, went after Duchesne to get Duchesne, kept Panarin. He knew those guys were going to walk, and that's why instead of because they didn't want to play for Columbus anymore. But why did they play well, Alex? Because they knew money was at the end if they were able to play well. And that's what made that run so important for the Blue Jackets. They knew this wasn't going to be the same team next year, but those players that were going to be going for those new contracts next season, they had to play well if they wanted those big contracts. Panarin's making $10 million. Another guy is at $10 million for Bobrovsky as well. Those guys are making bank because they did so well in those playoffs.
Yeah, the problem with Pierre-Luc Dubois, though, is the fact that he does have a year after this one at $5 million.
Will he be an RFA at the end of it? Does it say on there? Expiry status
RFA. Yes.
So you'll have to sign him. So this is literally a bridge contract, and you're going to have to pay for UFA years after this.
They don't. He can refuse to sign.
Well, yeah, you want to have a whole. Well, then yes, because then you have to wait. I think was it half the season? We almost had that with Nylander. We at least sat out half the year.
Yeah. I think it might be one of those things that. Well, can they trade him?
They can trade him. Yeah, have no problem with trading players.
Yeah,
remember the Kevin Hayes deal.
I was about to say, they can trade. No, trade. I feel like he's going to get traded before his contract's up, and then someone's going to sign him to his deal that he wants. Because his base salary this year is $3,350,000, with next year being a base salary of $6,650,000.
And the reason why he signed it like that is because obviously he's going to lose money had he had the bigger contract this year, so he took the less money this year so he can get paid more next year, which will make it even harder to be traded. I guess it's still $5 million.
Right. So which is the reason why I'm like, but if anything, this is the year to trade him.
But here's the thing, people. I get it.
I'm talking from the point of the Columbus Blue Jackets organization. Right. You have a player on your team that doesn't want to be there, even though management has proven in the past that they are going to keep players that don't want to be there because it's the whole thing of they don't want to slack off and look terrible.
They won't do that exactly. But I'm going to go with Ken Wiebe on this one, Alex. Similar
Okay.
to Patrick Laine, this is not the year it's going to happen. Just
No.
because it's so hard for, when you move, you have to quarantine, and then you're losing a guy for 5 games, right? And the amount that you're going to have to give up for Pierre-Luc Dubois, despite him not wanting to be there, it's still a high price tag because he is a very good young talent, and that's a guy that could be good for another half decade or so, right? So that's why he's going to stay in Columbus for this year. Next year, with a full season, maybe less restrictions on having to, quarantine or having to wait to play, that may be the case. So
Maybe.
I like to see Dubois staying this year. I think that'll be the case. Columbus, I still have them finishing 3rd in that division. So I'm sticking to it. It's my star. I'm sticking to it.
Okay. Last thing that we have
10 minutes left here on the Keela Show here on 12 Out Sports.
Last thing that we have on the script is back-to-backs, back-to-back hockey.
Because we're going to see a lot of that this year, Alex.
Tyler, you list it as must-see TV, and I'd like to get your perspective before I give you mine.
Well, so we talked about a lot of our games this week. You had Thursday, Saturday, Wednesday, Fridays, and I'm good. Oh, what a play. What a save by Hellebuck. Great save. Great save. Well, it's on TSN tonight. It's not Hockey Night in Canada. Or it's not Sportsnet. But anyways, I am all for this because, we talked about just a little bit ago about Jimmy Howard and Grand Rapids. In minor league hockey, that's all you see.
Back-to-backs.
You have a 1-game weekend. No, that's called a Wednesday before you play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's how minor league hockey works. You play back-to-backs all the time. The back-to-back in the NHL used to be, Toronto and Winnipeg on Wednesday, and then they play on Saturday. The extended back-to-back, as I like to call it. However, as we've seen, there's going to be a lot of back-to-backs, like pure back-to-backs. And I'm all for it because here's the thing.
Well, not pure back-to-backs.
Well, they play on a Friday, like the Leafs. They played Friday in Ottawa. They played Saturday in Ottawa. There was the Islanders and Bruins. They play tomorrow as well, if I'm not mistaken. That's what I like because you want to talk about building rivalries. You want to have teams that want to hate each other and get tough and want to beat the holy heck out of each other. Like last year, they were like, that was awesome seeing the Battle of Alberta play on a Thursday, Saturday. Yeah, how about a Friday, Saturday for 2 weeks in a row? That's how you build rivalries, Alex. That's how you get people excited, because then you're like, hey, you know what? We lost.
Keeps people going.
Yeah, we lost to him last night, but you know what? We know what we got to do to beat him tonight. Morning skates will be optional to the T this year for sure, but it's gonna make it a lot harder because when literally the term of taking a night off is impossible when the next night you have to play the same team again. It's not like the Leafs, say for, in a normal year. You're right. They have the Islanders coming to town on Friday, but they go to Montreal the next night. No, it's not that. Not that kind of back-to-back. This is literally the same team 2 nights in a row. That's a pure back-to-back, Alex. That's what I say. That's the old school original 6. You play Saturday, Detroit, Montreal. You hop on the train, overnight train, to back up to the Forum for Sunday afternoon or Friday, Saturday, whatever. That is what I think is going to make this season a lot more interesting. Now, yes, you only have back-to-backs like Toronto will play Edmonton 2 games there. You may have some like the Battle of Alberta. You play Calgary one night, Edmonton the next night. But it's going to make it really interesting. And I know I'm going on just the North here, but that's because the North has been so exciting this weekend. But that's going to happen across the league, though. Arizona and San Jose had a couple really good games down there. Heck, Arizona has fans down there. Then again, it's the South. But I like to see that this is going to make it, you're going to have teams get a little more frisky, a little more on edge. Not necessarily fight all the time, but it'll make it.
Right.
The battles will be, I don't want to use the word epic. I'm not going to go that far.
More entertaining.
More entertaining and more must-watch TV.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. And from my perspective, the one thing that I'm going to have to keep in mind, and I think teams are going to have to keep in mind, is the fact that teams are going to have to get more creative with their talent.
Lineups, yep.
They're going to have to definitely work on that because, for one, when you're playing a back-to-back, it's very easy to say, this matchup didn't work this night. Playing first line versus first line, second line versus second line, that kind of thing. Didn't really work out for us. Okay, what can we do? Maybe start the second line in period 2, something like that.
Or something like the situations, yeah.
Yeah, and then, kind of work that kind of battle. Kind of like, oh my goodness, I keep forgetting his name. Boston Bruins head coach.
Cassidy.
Yeah, Bruce Cassidy. That's something that he has perfected the art of. But what about Babcock?
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason why.
Do you not remember 1819?
There's a reason why he's not behind the bench, Ty.
Yeah, he's working for NBC. It's not Millbury, but it's Babcock. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the story where we replace one guy with his identical brother.
So that's one thing, and then also goaltending too is another thing that you're gonna have to keep in mind. This is gonna be a season, like I said before. This is gonna be definitely a season that teams that have the 1A 1B combo, it's going to play out a lot better for you because teams like, and I bash Reimer, but when you have a tandem where you have Mrazek and Reimer can win games. At the very least, he can keep teams in games.
Yes. The McElhenney approach.
But if you have a situation like Chicago where you have Malcolm Subban and...
Colin Delia.
Who?
Colin Delia.
Who?
Okay, Colin Delia, the guy that got hurt before Scott Foster came in and saved the day against
My
Winnipeg.
joke. Yeah, that's another.
My joke.
That's another thing. How's the emergency goaltender situation going to work?
So no, because every team has 3 goaltenders. That's why Anton Forsberg going because they have.
I know.
Because they have
I was making a joke.
I don't know because people are like, why do you think Anton Forsberg is such a big deal for Winnipeg to claim him? Because now they have a 3rd string goaltender that can play in the NHL behind Brossoit and Hellebuck. Why do you think it was so important that Aaron Dell got picked up by Edmonton? Well, Mike Smith is on LTIR for who knows how long. And they really need all the goaltending help they can get there in Edmonton. You need to have 3 goaltenders this year that can play in the NHL.
Yeah, which is going to be, that's another thing is a huge challenge of, people have always had, or I think teams have always had the problem of establishing, 2 strong goaltenders. Usually it's been a strong starting goaltender, which is the reason why he's a starting goaltender, and then a capable backup. And then
Curtis McElhenney.
Now you're in the situation where, like you said, you have to have 3 capable goalies to feel safe at the very least. So I think that's one thing that we're going to have to keep in mind is the player. I forgot the word for it.
Player
management.
Load
management.
There we go. Load management. Before we sign off here today, before we take it over to Talking Minds with the Rando, coming up at 8:30, talking SPHL and other stuff.
We love it.
I got to quick plug something here.
Okay.
Thursday, I did an interview this morning with head coach Brian Riley, Army West Point head coach, because last weekend, mentioned it in the College Hockey Scoreboard, he went up against his nephew, Brett Riley, head coach of the Long Island Sharks. And I thought to myself, that's a great idea. So what am I going to do? I interviewed Brian this morning. I interviewed Brett tomorrow. Thursday night, the premiere of a special Kuhl Show episode. Just me, Alex. I'm sorry. I know you don't. I know
that's all right.
It's gonna be pre-done, but it's gonna go live. It's gonna be on our Kuhl Show YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch. Alex, we're gonna go on there. Gonna be live everywhere on that Thursday night, 6:00. So same start time here on 12 Ounce Sports, but we're gonna be on our own social media platforms and the YouTube channel as well. The podcast form will be up as well on Thursday night. Brett Riley and Brian Riley, a special story. Uncle versus nephew, coaching against each other at the collegiate level. We're going to get their thoughts on that and also their hit lineage, because remember, there was Jack Riley, Brian's dad, Brett's grandfather, was the head coach of the 1960 U.S. Olympic team that won gold medal. We're going to get both their stories from there. Be sure to check that out Thursday night. We'll put it across on the social medias throughout up until then. Live at 6:00. Well, live premiere at 6:00 on Thursday.
Yes.
I just had to plug that before I go, because if I forgot, I would have been mad at myself.
Yes, and we are 3 minutes to end of showtime.
I just wanted to get it out because I'm like, I knew if I said, like, we tried to start doing the sign off, we'll start yammering about something, I'll just forget about it.
That's true.
Because that's usually how it goes these days. But no, it'll be exciting. Still 1-0 Leafs, by the way. Did Mikko Lehtonen get a point on that?
I don't know.
Hold on. I got 2 minutes here. Let me see. Where's the game center? Because John Tavares got the goal. Hey.
No.
Oh, what did you do?
I grabbed her neck.
Oh, because she's biting the stick?
Yes.
Because Wixie plays hockey now. Nylander and Muzzin on the assist. Jake Muzzin was out there? Why was Muzzin out there? She's biting the stick, and Alex grabbed her.
Yeah.
She's not causing a riot. She's just causing a havoc.
Yeah. 3 minutes to end a close. I think we are going to cut it.
Well, we can. It's okay.
I'm going to cut it.
Leafs up 1-0. What?
I'm going to cut it.
Pick her up?
Pick her up.
You want to try to pick her up right now?
Mutluck.
Pick up Wixie. Wixie making her second appearance on today's show. 3 times in 2 shows. Wixie, you're on fire. This girl is on fire. This girl's on fire. Alicia Keys.
There.
Oh, baby girl. Hi, can I have a kiss? Oh, you gonna kiss the mic? Sounds probably.
Well, Tyler, if you want to cue up the music, I'll take us home.
Make sure you check us out on our podcatcher as well.
All that good stuff. Favorite podcatchers. For Tyler, the Insider of the Insiders, I'm your host, Alex Keel. Talking Miners with Rando up next here on 12 Ounce Sports. We will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Say bye, Wixie. Can we tell them hashtag TKS?
Hashtag TKS at Keel Show on Twitter and Facebook.
Thursday night, live with Brian and Brett. Well, not live, but live-ish.
Goodbye.
Are you talking?